This is Viva Fry.
I'm Dr. Peter McCullough.
This is Tom Luongo.
This is Chuck Prodnick.
This is Alex Kreiner.
Hey, this is Brad Wall.
This is JP Sears.
Hi, this is Frank Peretti.
This is Tammy Peterson.
This is Danielle Smith.
This is James Lindsay.
Hey, this is Brett Kissel, and you're listening to the Shaun Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Happy Wednesday. How's everybody doing today? Precious metals. All right, let's start with precious metals, shall we? Look no further than silver, gold, bull. When it comes to buying, selling, storing, using your retirement accounts to invest in precious metals, all you got to do is go down in the show notes. You can find Grahame down there, and he can answer any questions you may have around all these different things to do with precious metals. You can also go on Silver Gold Bull, take a look at the wide variety of best value silver for every budget, best value gold for every budget, and you can check out the charts too. We've been checking those out for the last few weeks, and you can see over the last year where the gold price has gone along with silver. And if you're on silvergoldbull.ca.com, just make sure any purchase you make to reference the Shaun Newman podcast. Bow Valley Credit Union. Buying and selling Bitcoin has never been easier. Bow Valley Credit Union has developed the first in Canada Bitcoin gateway. With just a few clicks, you can buy Bitcoin directly from your Bow Valley Credit Union account. The Bitcoin you purchase through your Bitcoin gateway is real, truly yours, securely stored, insured, and never leveraged. Custody is provided for you with no risk of losing your seed phrases, complicated technology, or fear of hackers. Just go visit bowvalleycu.com and get your account started today. Diamond 7 Meats. Diamond 7 Meats here in Lloydminster is a family-run business with over 26 years of service, offering more than just retail cuts. They provide livestock processing for farmers and ranchers in Saskatchewan and Alberta, including custom sausage making for both domestic and wild game. If you don't have your own animals, their retail sales connects you directly with the producers, offering sides or quarters of beef, pork, and lamb. Their experienced staff can help you fill your freezer with exactly what you need. You can find them on the north end of town, Highway 17 and 67th Street North, or you can call Diamond 7 Meats today at 306-825-9718. Caleb Taves Renegade Acres. Oh, boy. They do the community spotlight. Of course, they also do concrete, stamp concrete if you're interested. They've donated their spot for some events coming up. Quick Dick McDick Live, November 22nd in Lashburn. That is a fundraiser for the Lashburn Elementary School for a playground set. You can get tickets at showpass.com/Lashburn. We have the Mashspiel coming January 17th in Kalmar, just west of Leduc. We are now under 12 teams available, and that's going to be a fun mashup event. And so if you want to go, you can be an individual, you can be a team of 4. You can get all that done at showpass.com/Mashspiel. So that is going to be a fun little community building event. Hope to see you fine folks there. We have the Cornerstone Forum returning March 28th, and that's going to feature new speaker Vince Lanchi, Chad Prather, and then, of course, some returnees, Tom Luongo, Alex Kreiner, Matt Arrett, Tom Bodrovic, Twos. It's going to be a fun event, March 28th. You can get your tickets at showpass.com/Cornerstone26. It's all down in the show notes, folks. Get your tickets today. They are early bird prices here for the next month, and look forward to having you fine folks there. We have the new studio. It's getting close. It's getting real close. I've had some people asking about getting their name on the wall. You want to get your name on the wall, shoot me a text. We'll give you the details. We got a little bit more time before it's all said and done, and it's there. If you're listening or watching on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Rumble, X, make sure to subscribe. Facebook, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to leave a review. Make sure to share with a friend if you're enjoying the show. We rely heavily on you fine folks to continue to get the word out there. All right, let's get on to that. Tale of the tape. He's an Albertan, truck driver, and political commentator. I'm talking about Josh on Topic. So buckle up. Here we go. Welcome to the Shaun Newman Podcast. Today I'm joined by Josh on Topic. Josh, thanks for coming to the studio.
Thank you for having me, Shaun. I really appreciate it. I'm a big fan of your show, and I appreciate everything that you do.
Well, You shocked me a little bit. Where did you drive from today?
Just about a little over an hour west of Edmonton.
Yeah, west of Edmonton, right?
Yeah, so it's about 3.5 hours.
So for the audience member, I'm trying to figure out who Josh is, and then I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this virtual, all right? And so I'm trying to get that all set up. And like, oh, what time do you want me there? And I'm like, well, it starts at, and I'm like, wait a second, are you coming in person? Yeah, I'm gonna come in person. I'm like, oh, because like most people. No, I shouldn't say most people. I have lots of wonderful people who make the drive to Lloydminster, but at the same token, I'm like, I don't come to expect it, And so you making the effort to come here, I'm like thoroughly impressed already. I don't know. My hat's off to you for making the drive early in the morning too, because I was like, well, do you want? In my brain, I'm like, he's not going to want to come for 9. I'll be there at 9. I'm like, oh,
I would
okay.
have come for 6. I like driving. I'm a truck driver actually by trade, so
really
that's what I do. So I mean, 3.5 hours, so that's almost nothing. So I don't mind making it all the way out here.
Cool. Well, before we get going, okay. So anyone who comes in studio gets one of these.
Oh, these are one of the famous. This is the only reason I came on the show. I'm just kidding. But I brought this for you as well. I was wondering what to get you, and I couldn't.
Well, you didn't need to get me anything.
I was trying to find something printed made with Shaun Newman podcast, but I was like, I can't find anything on like a little bit shorter notice when I thought of it. So then I was like, well, you can never go wrong with having an extra knife or two. So I'll give you that there.
Well, okay, so first, the thing I gave you is a 1 ounce silver coin. Silver gold bull. Any guest that comes in studio gets a 1 ounce silver coin. And I don't know if you're a collector or if you store any precious metals, but if you don't or you do, if you're adding it to your stack like Chuck Prodnick, or if you're just a first timer, it don't matter. I don't know. Do you have any silver, gold?
Not really. Well, I always think with that, like you hear all of the things about, well, if everything goes really south with the world and everything, you always need gold and silver. I think Prophet River would probably be better for that, because what I think is if everything goes really downhill, you don't really need silver and gold. You need bullets.
So you're a Chuck Prodnick fan. The first Cornerstone we did 2 years ago, I had a gold guy, a Bitcoin guy, and Chuck Prodnick, a lead guy. And that debate was won by lead. The audience would have agreed with Chuck Prodnick, I think, the most. But when you look at the price of gold right now and silver over the last only year, I don't have the... Here, I'm going to actually pull it up quick.
Isn't gold something like $4,000 Canadian or something crazy?
More. Sorry, folks. I guess I could talk into the mic. So gold... I do this now at the start of every show. A year ago, it was 38.09 Canadian, and where it sits today, it's dropped a bit, but it's 56.46. So.
Oh, okay. So I was.
That's off. Canadian. That's Canadian. It's almost $2,000 up. It was $2,000 up.
That's insane.
Yeah, for an ounce of gold.
Well, I have a little bit of Bitcoin. I don't really know much about it, but I mean, I was looking at it and I was like, well, I bought $10 of it like back in 2020, and now it's up to, that was when it was, I think it was about $20,000.
Yeah.
And now it's like 120,000. So I was like, well, maybe I should have at least a little bit of money into that, because you never know with our dollar dropping and stuff. But yeah, it's hard to, I'm bad at figuring out what to do if everything just goes south. So you never know.
Man, and then, okay. So for the audience member, this is what he brought me. Josh, this is sweet, man. Like,
has a sharpener with it.
Yeah, I'm trying to yank it out here. Like, here, I'll try and.
Well, I was gonna get a little folding knife, and then I thought, well, nah, he probably has one of those already.
Smith and Wesson, yeah, man, I'm honored. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, no problem.
That's very kind. I just finished watching. I had Lady Karen Katowski on. And she was talking about an old movie. What is it called, folks? The Legends of the Fall. Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I think I've seen it a while ago. I don't like it very much.
Oh, you don't like it?
I don't. Well, from what I remember, I didn't. I haven't seen it in a while. So
it's funny. I liked it more this time around. Like there's certain parts that I just dislike, but Anthony Hopkins' character serves in the military and goes, is in the war that basically exterminates the Indians in the United States.
Yeah.
And he leaves it, and he pushes against government. He tries not to get his sons to go to war. He tries to get his sons not to become into politics. And the one-liners or the little things he does makes the entire movie.
I'll have to watch it again, probably.
Well, I think most people should, because he has some things that are just so spot on when it comes to government or war or politics. I'm like, that was brilliant. Now, certainly the rest of the movie, there's parts where you're like, I don't know, right? Like it's all right. Brad Pitt was Brad Pitt, but Anthony Hopkins' character. I'm off on a tangent here. He in that movie carries around a big knife all the time.
Yeah, well, it's good to have a 6-inch blade before the government makes them illegal, just like the UK.
Yeah, well, I was like, or Australia where they got the machete ban. And
they have a machete. They banned all of the guns, and now they have a machete problem where people are attacking people with machetes. And funny, I listened to this one podcast from Australia, and that thing, the carbon copy that we're all going through is actually pretty crazy. I forget what it's called. I think it's called Two Worlds Collide. Two Worlds Collide podcast. He has a bunch of politicians on there and stuff, and it's really good. But I think they spent $30,000 per bin of these machete bins for everyone to voluntarily turn in their machetes, because that's what they're expecting now. And he was talking about how he had a friend who was in fabrication. He's like, you could have made one of these for like probably $1,000 a piece. Like, you just need a simple bin. And he's like, it'll be funny to see what's going on, what people actually decide to put in there. Like, they're going to find a bunch of garbage and things in these bins, because who's going to voluntarily turn in any of this stuff? And that's the same thing with like the gun ban. I find Australia and Canada are pretty much on the same track. Australia is ahead in some things. We're ahead in others. Like, we're ahead in the censorship. They're ahead in like banning guns. And then the UK is that's what we're all headed towards. And even past that is what I find is going to happen, because like the UK, they've banned the guns, then they have a knife problem, so now they're banning knives, they're banning speech, they're putting like 20 some people a day in prison for Facebook posts. And I mean, that's what we're headed towards, and I think more people need to realize that sort of thing can happen here in Canada as well.
Well, tell me a bit about yourself, because like when you first reach out, I was like, who is this guy? Right. And then I hopped online and just did a quick, Google search / dig in and watch some of your videos. I'm like, okay, sounds like he's in Alberta. I got a ton of time for exposing myself and the audience to different voices here in Alberta. But I don't know. Tell me the long and short of who you are and how you got your start, and a bit of the Josh on topic.
Well, I'm a Christian. I'm a husband and a father, and I'm a truck driver as well. So what happened for me was the same as what happened for a lot of people during COVID. That's when, like, before COVID, I was like, well, the media's not lying to us. The government has good interests. They're a little bit crazy. I've always voted conservative, and I've always been more conservative at heart, because I grew up very rural. Like, I've only moved 3 kilometers in my entire life. So I live around my family and this and that. So you see how the government kind of is, like, the Liberal government doesn't care as much about rural people and about Alberta in general. So you grew up with some of that, but we weren't extremely political. And then right around COVID, I had actually taken 2 of the whatever you call them. I don't know if you're allowed to say what they were on the show, or you'll get demonetized.
The jibby jab.
Yeah.
So you took it.
I took 2 of them, actually, because I was like, well, the doctors make so much sense. And I mean, it sounds crazy now, but I was like, the doctors make sense. They're here to help us. And I mean, that was the case in Canada for quite a long time. But then all of a sudden I had started seeing some stuff come out about how it was like causing people right around my age group to have heart attacks, just drop dead, like almost exactly me, like normal, healthy people who are in their mid to late 20s and into their 30s get these heart attacks stuff. So I was like, is there any truth to this? So I started listening to some alternative media. And then I spent the next 5 years. So I drive. So I work on average about, like, let's say 16 hours a day I spend in the truck and stuff doing this and that. So I always started listening to podcasts and different media, reading books, more audiobooks and things like that. And so I did that for about 5 years straight. And I mean, the night and day difference of how I think of the government and just of basically all of the media propaganda and all that sort of stuff is just crazy. But then I had started... I had been talking my wife's ear off for quite a while about all this stuff. So then she was like, you should start a TikTok and start talking about some of this stuff in TikTok. So then I started doing that for a little bit, and it started to get a little bit popular, and I really enjoyed doing it. And then kind of the turning point to where I was like, I'm going to start this show was probably about almost a year ago exactly. I had gone to an NDP event because I had seen that they had just elected Naheed Nenshi, and I was like, this guy was the mayor of Calgary and he's absolutely insane. So I decided I would go to this event and I'd ask him some questions because he had an open Q&A. So I was like, well, I guess he's going to get some questions from a different perspective. And I went to this event. It was my turn to talk to him and stuff. And he was like, he started shouting at me. He was lying to me about this and that. He was saying the NDP's pro oil. And then we saw, obviously, he sided with Justin Trudeau on the no more pipelines and the emissions cap and all that. But then anyways, he had started shouting at me. Then they cut the mic off and they were like, all right, you're not allowed to ask anymore. And as I was going to leave, they told me to never come back to another NDP event. So I was like, well, I'm going to now start my own show at some point. And then we were just about to have our daughter. So then it took a few months and stuff, and then they announced the election. So right around February, it was still kind of a bad time with like, she would have been 2 or 3 months old at the time. And then I was like, well, I'm going to start this show. And it was funny because it took me, I would do one episode a week and they'd be about 20 minutes long on different things that happened throughout the week. But I was so horrible at talking on camera because they don't tell you that, on camera is like you're talking to everybody and nobody at the exact same time. So I would film them in like little 5-minute blocks all throughout the week, and I would wear the same thing every day, and then I would put it out at the end of the week. And I got actually very good feedback from a lot of people, and then just started getting more and more comfortable, and I guess kind of here we are now.
Well, I was talking with Rod Giltacker from the CCFR, and he was saying, oh, man, I go back some of my early videos and they're cringe. And I'm like, well, just go back in the podcast, folks, and you can hear how cringe I am. I think anyone who starts out, even if you had a background and went for, like media journalism, education, and you start the first time you're in front of a camera or a mic, this thing used to terrify me, terrify me. And it's just like a slow progression. You're just slowly getting better. And, most people tune in to Joe Rogan now.
Yeah.
Or, take your pick, folks, your favorite large name in the podcasting, alternative media realm. And if you go back to when they first started, lots of them are cringe, because you got to get comfortable. You got to find your feet, so to speak, and kind of get comfortable. I always use hockey analogies. You don't step on the ice the first time and all of a sudden a great skater. That takes a lot of effort and work at it, and it's no different in this realm. Like you got to realize, and the first time you get yelled at for something you've put online is an interesting endeavor. But you kind of got to find your feet, so to speak, when you're in front of a camera, in front of a mic, and that's no different than any of us. All of us have that cringe right at the start where you're like, oh, this is difficult, and then you just slowly get better at it. If you keep with it, I mean, you're just going to slowly improve. The more effort you put into something, it's impossible not to start improving at it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've ever posted anything on TikTok, but TikTok is completely different to YouTube. YouTube kind of finds your lane and finds your kind of people, and you'll get pushback in the beginning, and then you kind of find your lane. But then with TikTok, it's constant. The amount of people that come out and they're like I did a little video or a clip from my show where I talked about how with the teachers strike, it was like, what was it? 51,000 teachers for 700,000 students or something like that. So it worked out to about 13.72 students per teacher. So 14 students per teacher. And that's just basic math, basic division. And then you get people saying, oh, well, I've heard of girl math before, but this is Alberta math. And so it's like, you're getting into a place where people are like, math isn't math. And I mean, I'd even mentioned in the video that it's like, I understand in urban centers, it's going to be different than rural. So you're going to get these big classes. But when I went to high school in it was actually a pretty big high school. So it was there was over 40 students in some of my classes, and I don't think any class dipped below 35. And it was no problem with learning whatsoever. And nobody really talked about it. Nobody went on strike then. So I think more with the teacher strike, it's political in some ways. But the amount of people who are just like, math isn't math and this doesn't work, it's just crazy, especially and that you find that a lot on TikTok.
Well, I think everybody knows by now. I have a hard time looking at social media comments.
Yeah.
My audience is fantastic, like full stop. But I have a hard time understanding when it's bots. You just know that's there. Like this is everybody knows it. So how do you know when you're getting yelled at? And anytime you get yelled at, even where I sit today, it always strikes. It just hurts, right? I'm not out here to try and cause division. I'm trying to open up dialogue and conversations, and then you'll get some comment. Man, that sucks. And I just stopped looking at them. I've put my phone number on every episode. If people really want to talk to me, and they do, they can text. And I find texting takes effort. Plus, now you got to put this isn't anonymous. You're gonna tell me who you are. And lots of times they'll call, or I'll call them, because if they have a really good point, I actually want to hear more about it. And that is uncomfortable probably for both of us, because now they have to explain themselves. And I found that has given me more peace of mind than any social media comment and going back and forth ever will. And so I've just, sadly, I probably ignored some very good comments on social media as well, but I've just gotten away from monitoring that part of my life, just because I'm like, if they really care, it's pretty easy to find me. I've made it almost insanely easy to find who I am, where I am, and if you really want to have a conversation with me, I've had a lot of interesting ones, to say the least. And COVID in that time was that on steroids. I had a lot of people call yelling, and that was uncomfortable too. But I find dialogue usually helps. And usually when people are mad at me, I'll be like, oh, I don't think that. You realize that, right? Oh, well, and I'm like, yeah, I had somebody on to talk about it. I think it's important to hear different sides of the discussion. So I'm not a big TikToker. I'm not a big anything, if I'm being honest. Probably X is my largest account, and I go there for a lot of information because there's a lot of smart people there, and you can read their stuff. But social media, to me, man, is a dangerous realm to live on. And I commend you for putting videos out on TikTok and everything, because there's a lot of brilliant stuff that comes out on those platforms and other platforms, and it's how I find different guests, and you're no different.
Yeah, I mean, TikTok, I stopped answering TikTok comments and things because it's just a different level. But YouTube, I try to answer most of them, and I get a lot of good ones on there. I don't put my phone number. And I had originally thought, I was like, well, this is just going to go to some random computer and it's not actually going to be you, but it is actually a cell number. So
it is.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of, I was surprised by that. I was wondering how many texts you get per day and that kind of thing on it, but
it varies. You know, you can have a very boring week, and I'm sure my guests are not boring, but you can have a very dull week where, you know, don't get me wrong, it's constant. And then you can, you know, like, if you go back to the Cowboy Preacher, the first time I had Joshua Allen on, the text line, I couldn't keep up with it. I had to just put my phone down because I was just dinging. It was just like, it was hovering on the table. It was and very positive, I might add. Very, 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 very positive. But, you know, it's funny. I guess I'm just not worried about the world. You know, like I have a lot more hope than cynicism, although I got my fair share of cynicism on certain subjects. But I've done it now since COVID, you know, and if I can survive COVID with my phone line being open to everyone, I've just, you know, kind of adjusted life to that's how I interact with the audience. So yeah, like, no, you're not the only one to figure out that it is actually my phone. And if you really want to get a hold of me, you just shoot me a text. That's usually the easiest thing, because I'm not big on answering phone calls from random numbers. Yeah. But a text is, to anyone listening, is usually the best place to start. That's the easiest thing, because it's no different than social media. To me, you know, you get a comment, you look at it, and you reply back. And I've found people who take their time to search out my phone number, because that does take a little bit of effort, although be it very low, and then to actually put their keys, you know, and think out their thoughts to send me, that takes effort. And I've found in today's world, the bar to entry is so low to find anyone, and yet if there's just this little bar, most people don't do it. Yeah, but I mean, and that's the thing, the first time you get some sort of a comment that's like, oh, you suck and this and that, it builds you up a thick skin really quick when you're doing that kind of stuff, because you get all these things. Like I have, the direct messages are different, because I'll get direct messages like people harassing you and stuff. Like there was this one gay massage therapist in Vancouver that really that really did not like my stuff. And so he had said, oh, this and that, I disagree. And I'm somewhat rational, I would assume. So I reached out back to him, and I was like, well, I was like, well, if you just talk to me about this stuff, I'm pretty reasonable and you can have a conversation with me. And he's like, no, you posted this thing and I think it was wrong, so now I'm this. And then he started commenting like crazy stuff under each one of my things, and I didn't block him or nothing and stuff, but I would just fire back at him something, and then eventually they stopped. But yeah, it's crazy. Do you enjoy that? Because I've ran into different people on the podcast that really like the chaos social media
I
brings up.
don't. I like the other side actually quite a bit. Like when I went to the Independence rally on Saturday, and I was a little bit disappointed that the counter protest left so soon because the counter protesters, there were about 15, 20 of them, and they just took off. I put it in one of my videos that they were just leaving. And I actually really like talking to the other side. Some of them are rational, some of them are irrational. And if people have something crazy to say, I still like talking to them. I don't like the chaos of well, you suck just because of what you believe and this and that.
Yeah, when
and
they attack your belief.
Yeah, or it's just well, probably not. There's some rationality, maybe some irrationality. I don't like the people who can't be persuaded. But I mean, even when I mentioned I went to the NDP event, I had a good, probably the entire time we were waiting for Nenshi to come out, so it was about over an hour. I was talking to one guy beside me. He was like they, them, or something like that. But we were talking about Danielle Smith and about Justin Trudeau at the time, and so many other things going on in politics. And I had a good time talking with him, and we disagreed on a lot. But I mean, it was a normal, rational thing where he wasn't just like, I'm going to write you off because of what you believe. And I was like, I'm not going to write you off, but I'm going to give you a different perspective. And I like that. And I don't get a lot of that on YouTube, but I mean, I don't mind it whenever I do. But it just seems like the division is continuing so much more now, where it's like, if you think that just take your pick on anything. If you think that elbows up is some stupid thing that Mark Carney created in order to win the election, and somebody else thinks that that he's trying to save Canada, they're like, well, whichever one you are, you have to stay with that group only, and you have to hate everybody else, and it just so much more.
Well, so for what's interesting about yourself is I find it interesting when I get somebody who got the jabs, right? Because what I've found sitting in this chair, and there's been wonderful people. I got good friends who did it as well, and then they've come full circle, right? Because what happened in the middle of COVID is if you didn't get it, you had government coming down on you saying, we had the pandemic of the unvaccinated for Jason Kenney, right? That was, and Scott Moe and others, I might add. And so what happened is you firmly got placed in two camps. What's interesting is you got them and then found your way out of that camp. At least that's what it sounds like to me. Maybe you can put it in your own
words.
Yeah,
I got fooled a lot by this stuff. And I mean, even when conservative people were saying that, I mean, it wasn't just a right versus left issue. I mean, it did find its way more on the right for you to not be in favor of getting the jabs. But I found it to be even you had people like Jason Kenney, who I didn't think was a super conservative, but he was better than Rachel Notley at the time. But he was saying it was safe and all this, and we're 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and I believed all of it, which was...
In fairness, I believed all of it.
Yeah, and it's insane.
I believed it when they're like, we just need to get to 50%, and then 60%. Yep. And I kept saying, well, we'll hit the number. I'm not getting it, but we'll hit the number, and we'll move on with life. And then it wouldn't move on with life.
Yeah.
Right? That's where eventually the podcast took a giant turn, right? Because up until that point, I was still interviewing athletes. I was like, we need some content that isn't the world's doom and gloom. And I thought we were just we're going to hit these numbers. We're eventually going to get out of this. And then it wouldn't relent, and it wouldn't relent, and it wouldn't relent. And eventually I just started talking to different people who had things I'd never heard of before, because I was as trusting of media and government as you were. Full stop.
Well, the government and the media in Canada generally didn't lie to us as much as the United States government media does up until Justin Trudeau got elected. We were pretty much governed well before that. I would say Stephen Harper, I really liked him even at the time when it was barely political, because I liked the fact that it was good governance. He was fiscal conservative. We were on par with the US dollar. We had the richest middle class, and everything went good. This is also interesting. I have never worked in my entire full-time working. I have never worked in a good economy, because I started working full-time in 2015, and then I'd had a few months of Harper. Then we had elected Justin Trudeau, and I saw everything just take a nosedive down, all these small oil field towns and everything. Just there's a town somewhat close to me. It's called Drayton Valley. I don't know if you heard
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So out there, you could not find a house. I knew people that lived there, and you could not find a house to rent. You would pay like $1,000 or so a month to rent one bedroom in like an old clapped out trailer in the middle of town. And then all of a sudden, overnight, people throwing their keys in their house and taking off in that town. Like the population must have halved over the next. And then after we elected Rachel Notley, then the population must have at least halved in that time. It's crazy and it's never come back since then. And it's just crazy the amount of like what you actually see in these places, like the amount of people leaving and how much the government actually starts to affect these small oil producing towns and everything. It's insane.
You're I think you said it. You're right around 30, correct?
Yeah. 29, but 30.
Yeah, well, you're a decade behind me. So just a younger audience or a younger perspective, or however you want to put it. I'm curious, in your friend circles, what are the conversations you have? Because you seem like a very, I don't know, balanced opinion. You went along with everything in COVID, right? I mean, up to a point. And so, like, I feel like that allows you to probably speak to different groups that others can't, or at least be in circles that most don't want to be in. You've went to the NDP and tried asking Naheed Nenshi, some questions. I mean, I'm already like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, I don't want to even venture into that circle. I'm all for talking to people, but I listen to that man, and I'm just like, this is personally a waste of my time, man. Married with 3 young kids, I'm like, I got to figure out the best ways to divide and conquer my time. Your friend circles or your age group, like, do you have different conversation? I'm just kind of curious what the younger Albertan is thinking.
A lot of people, well, it depends on which, because I feel like I got like 2 different friend groups, and some of them, they don't really care. They're just like, well, I'm doing this and the government doesn't really affect me and as much, or they may not think so, and they don't really care about this or that. A lot of them, I think most of them vote conservative, and a lot of them are just non-political. And then I have some more political people, but I mean, I'm the most political person that's in any of my friend groups or even in my family. Like my brother and my dad are very political as well. And I mean, they're the biggest, and my wife as well, some of the biggest support in me doing the show and all of that. Like, I mean, it's partly my dad, and I want to talk about this for a second because he raised me very, very well, him and my mom, and they basically told me that and actually instilled the belief in me that I can do absolutely anything with my life that I want to do. And I mean, it just gave me a almost diluted sense of confidence to be able to go into any of this. But with my dad, when I talk to him about it, he thinks a lot the same way that you do, where he's like I always think he should have been a politician because he's very balanced, very well-spoken, and extremely smart, and very good with dealing with like very stupid people. So I think he'd be really good in politics. But when I talk to him about it, he's like, he's very non-combative. He's like, I don't really like talking about this stuff. I don't know how you do this and how you like talking to these people. And I'm like, I like arguing with people for some reason. And I mean, even in a good faith way, there's a difference between bad faith arguments and good faith arguments and stuff. If it's in a good faith way, I don't mind arguing with people and talking to people on different sides. But talking to my friends, most of my friends are just like, well, what do you think about this going on? And a lot of them feel the same way. Most people, I would say the general consensus is they want the government to leave them alone. They want the government to leave their kids alone. And they're almost like they wish they couldn't care about this stuff as much, but now they find themselves being forced to care about it because the government is just so all controlling and all involved in their life, between like their kids' schools or what you can do and say in church and just all sorts of different things. Like the government just seems to be trying to weasel its way into your life in any way that you can. And a lot of these people were probably like me, where it's like, you just want to be left alone, but now the government's not leaving you alone. And it's tough to get away from in a lot of ways. But I think most people, yeah, they would just want to, they wish they didn't have to worry about this stuff as much as they do.
I think I've talked to a lot of the older generation, and I think we are just realizing how much the government tries to be in our lives. And if you go back and talk to people that were around, and scrutinizing Harper or others, they've had grave concerns for a very long time. And I think it's just now, my life, your life, others, we're starting to see it in ways that are like unthinkable. But if you go back 20 years, people could see this coming. And it's hard to imagine that there was a time in our lifetime where it's like, no, you couldn't have predicted this. And yet I keep running into them. I just keep running into people who've been staring at this problem, and this is where it's going, and it's going to get there. And if we don't get more people involved, and it's cool to see people like yourself and others starting to recognize, holy crap, we gotta start talking about this. We gotta start trying to find ways to get more Albertans or Canadians involved in the conversation. I don't like that it's all-encompassing and it's found its way into everywhere, and you just want to be left alone. I just want to be left alone. And yet it's found its way now into all aspects of society. Like, it's just, COVID was a wake-up call for so many people because you couldn't go anywhere without it being there.
Yeah.
It literally was everywhere. You wanted to go for an afternoon swim with your kids at the pool, it was there. You want to go for a supper with your wife, it was there. You want to go to a movie, it was there. You want to go to an Edmonton Oilers game, it was there. It was everywhere. And now I think a lot of us are realizing politics, what do they say? Politics is a contact sport, and you can either get involved or not, but it's coming for you. And it's found its way into everything, and I just see more and more of it everywhere I go.
Well, and I think part of that with the older generation, I think we write off the older generation a lot more, like my younger demographic, I would say. Although you hear a lot of stuff about boomers and about this and Gen X and all of this and that. And it's like, from my experience, and the people a lot, like they only watch CBC, you hear that kind of stuff. They're not watching any alternative media. I find a lot of older people are watching alternative media. Like my grandparents are in their my grandpa's 80 now. And my grandma's in her mid 70s, and they are like, they only watch alternative media. They love Moose on the Loose probably a lot more than they like my show. But no, it's like, you hear a lot about it where it's like, oh, the boomers created all these problems and they suck and they're the only ones voting for Carney. And it's like, they are in a way voting for him, but I think most of that is in the East. And I think there is a certain amount of them that do only watch CBC and aren't open to other things. But I think you could agree, out west is a lot different than out east. I would like to see the Saskatchewan border be the dividing line between two countries, because out east, you may have all those problems, but out west, we're a completely different place. And that's something that I've found from doing the show as well, is that like out here, the older generation, they're very aware of what the government is doing. They're very against government overreach.
Well, because they've been a part of the government doing it their entire lives.
And I mean, some of the biggest separatists are my grandparents and people like them. Like, they're like, I hope that we actually do it, because we've been talking about this since the 60s or even earlier.
You say the Saskatchewan line, and I can hear some Manitobans yelling at the radio right now going, no, it needs to be the Manitoba border.
Well, I mean, even if we include Manitoba, that's good. I mean, Manitoba depends on who's voting. Like, because I mean, they have Wob Canoe in, and he's an absolute insane narcissist.
Sure. I guess Jamie Sinclair told me, and this is like November of 2021. He just went, it's basically, to your point, Western Canada has a different value set than Eastern Canada. And at some point, people just need to realize that. I think as more and more of this goes on, and Carnage Carney is in, and you watch how he's governing and what their values are, it's just becoming more and more apparent. And then you talk to the older generation, and they've been, they've got all these different stories of how the federal government has tried to stifle the West or control the West. And they've been ready for it for a long time. But if you don't have the population ready for it, you're never going to have that movement.
Yeah.
You need to have a population that wants it. Well, that isn't two people. That's millions of people. And even right now in Alberta, I mean, you went to the protest or I don't know, was it a protest or gathering, rally?
Yeah.
You need mass numbers to want it. to want change?
I think we have it. Like the amount of people that I saw, I've been to both of the rallies, and the first one was, I think it was early in the summer, and they didn't talk about it as much, like it wasn't as put out there for, I guess, advertising it.
Sure.
And it had to have been 3 or 4 times the amount of people out this time. It was insane. I had hoped to interview some people like I did the first time, but the amount of people, it was packed. There was nowhere that you could pull somebody aside and talk to them really. Like I talked to a few people, but it was absolutely insane the amount of people that came out. Like it actually made me think that we could actually leave. And I think Alberta needs to start that. I think Alberta needs to be the place that will leave first.
Alberta will be the place.
And then Saskatchewan probably join us. You could pressure BC, like even with the lower mainland, BC would probably join us if they saw it, because
I keep bringing up this point, and Karen Katowski. So I had a lady who'd been in the U.S. Air Force, I think it was Air Force, for 20 years. And she talked about writing a paper on which Eastern Bloc countries would get their freedom first after the Soviet Union fell. And she thought it would be the ones that were oppressed the most. And what it turns out, it's the people with the most freedom who gain freedom first. So when you go, Alberta needs to lead the way, it's not, in my mind, it is no longer a question. It is a fact. Alberta will be first. Now, when? I don't know. But Alberta has the most freedom. It has the most voices that come out like Josh on Topic or others, right? There's a ton of us that are talking about this. And the conversation isn't dying down. It's only becoming more complex. And as the complex conversation grows, it's starting to bleed into the water cooler around every business, around the bar, wherever people meet, the hockey arena. People are talking about it, and they're trying to figure out what it actually means. And as more conversation grows, you start to build out this idea of, well, what actually does that look like? And well, we'd be landlocked, right? That's one of the big things that lots of politicians and lots of criticism on the Alberta movement raise. And then you start, well, what would that actually mean? And then people start talking about that. And then you get other people talking, and more conversation that grows. You can see that there is a want for something better. And how did we get there? And part of that is, well, do we leave Canada? Do we just improve the laws that protect Albertans? That's a different, do we become the 51st state? All these conversations are happening. It will be in Alberta. When? That's a good question. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you that. But to me, knowing what Karen said, I'm like, that makes a ton of sense why Alberta will be the place, because Alberta has this conversation raging. It's just everywhere you go, you run into it. Yeah. And people who hate it, they still want to talk about it because they don't want it to happen. So what's happening? More conversation. And as more conversation comes, more ideas are unearthed, and people are talking about it and exploring it, and it becomes more realistic. People can start to see this idea of what a free and independent Alberta would look like, all the positives that would come with it. So I think it will be Alberta. And if Alberta goes, Saskatchewan's going. And if Saskatchewan goes, I'm sorry, Wob Canoe can be everything. But I don't see Manitoba not looking at it going, man, it'd really behoove us to be a part of that.
Well, but at that point, you'd also there's a lot of people in Northern Ontario. There's a lot of people in Quebec that hate the way things are going. There's a lot of people in Atlantic Canada. It seems that the most part, the majority of the land mass where all the people are hate what's going on with the country. It seems like it's just like a bit of Quebec and like the greater Toronto area that like what's going on, and a lot of Atlantic Canada too, because I mean they elected the Conservatives that aren't Conservatives. Like you see what's his I don't know why I'm spacing on his name, the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford is absolutely not a Conservative. He's an insane liberal. He talks about how he wants to go to, he brings Mark Carney to his cottage and this and that, and they have their weird old times together, and like all the things that he's doing where he's just making it horrible for business in Ontario. And I mean, most of the people, like a lot of people watch my show from Ontario, and they're from Northern Ontario, and they're like, we hate this too. We want to move to Alberta. And I mean, you do see that because we've gained 200,000 people in Alberta since the election in April. We went from 4.8 million to 5 million people. And I mean, those aren't official yet because they haven't done a census, but still the amount of people that we're gaining from Ontario, from interprovincial migration, is insane, because they oppose all this stuff that the government is putting towards us, like the mass migration, all these censorship bills, the gun restrictions, just every way that the government is trying to just be like enforce this tyranny on us.
Yes, I agree. And then we have no PST, right? And some of the tax laws that they're trying to implement or keep, separate us as well, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a ton of benefit to what the Alberta advantage is. It's conversations like this and others that need to continue to happen to ensure that we keep that and don't fall the other way and adopt some of the more insane policies that other provinces have.
Yeah.
And to me, I really believe Alberta will find its way to a better future.
I think
just
we'll
can't figure out what that is.
I think we'll vote for it. I don't know. I think we have to fight for it if we want it to go past the voting yes stage, because the federal government will not want Alberta to leave. Nobody outside of Alberta will want Alberta to actually leave, except for maybe Saskatchewan would be the biggest. But they're gonna try to tie us up in a lot of legal challenges. So that's something that I don't hear talked about a lot. Also, who's going to lead the movement? Is it going to be Jeffrey Rath? I don't think so necessarily. I would like some. Who was the other guy that you had on with Jeffrey Rath? Where they
Bruce
debated?
Party.
Bruce Party. I like his way of leaving a lot better, because he talks about actually creating something new and taking the best parts of different countries, like even the United States Constitution, and creating a new constitution. And he talks about equal rights for the Indigenous people. And Jeffrey Rath, I think his biggest concern would be to just get a yes vote. I don't think he's necessarily as concerned with what happens afterwards. And if what happens afterwards is just Canada's the exact same and it's gonna be the exact same thing as Canada, then I don't like that. I like Bruce Party's way a lot better of leaving and making the Indigenous equal, because here's the thing, with the Indigenous population, they seem to go around thinking that that like we're on Indigenous land and we can't leave because we're on Indigenous land. We actually can leave, and all those rights were negotiated with the Crown. They weren't negotiated with Alberta. We inherited a lot of those rights, and we would in ways inherit the need to negotiate if we left Alberta. And I would like people to be equal, because I don't think that anybody has any different tie to this land than somebody else. Like, say, if you were born in 1996, that's when I was born. If somebody else who's Indigenous was born in 1996, we were both born just about 30 years ago in Alberta. So we have the same rights to the same land, and you should be able to make it on your own. Like, there's a disconnect there where it's like, our ancestors did this here forever ago, so it's more my land. But it's like, my ancestors came to Alberta in when would it have been? They were in Canada for over 200 years, but in Alberta since 1893. I think it was 1892 that they came to Alberta for the first time. So it's like, well, I have quite a bit of ties to this land too, and I care about it probably just as much as you do. The only difference is what the government is paying to these people,
and what the government did.
And what the government, but what did the government do necessarily?
Well, I mean, I can't speak to all of it, but I read a book on Big Bear from this area, right? And they just tried destroying their culture. Actually, the thing that I struggle with is, there's things that were done in the past that are horrific, beyond horrific. And the only thing that I am frustrated by was in COVID, they did it all again, and they did it to all people equally. If you didn't do a certain something, you were ostracized from society. And I'm like, I don't want to wait 100 years to address that. It just happened. We need to address that. We need to, when you talk about making everyone equal, there was a time, not that long ago, folks, where if you didn't do something, you were treated equally the same harshness.
Yeah.
Across the board. And I'm like, so the problem I have with governments is when they fixate on something, they make life extremely difficult. And we all witnessed it. You can put your head in the sand and go, well, that didn't really happen. It wasn't that bad. I know this audience doesn't think that, but other people do. And I'm like, it just literally happened. We don't have to go back to 100 years of seeing how bad a government could be to First Nations, Indigenous, Indians, take your pick. We just got to go back a few years, and we witnessed it. Everybody did in society. And if we fixed that problem for the future generations, we'd all be better for it.
Yeah.
Instead, we're going to fixate on 100 years ago when none of us were here.
Yeah.
And try and right those wrongs. And I go, well, we need to right the wrongs that just happened. And when you're talking about an Alberta movement of independence and making it better, I agree with you on Bruce Party. I really like a lot of what Bruce has to say. I think those are very difficult conversations to have in our current climate because we have the divisions. We've separated people into camps. And what a whole bunch of us want is us all to be in one camp. We want us to all be equal and create a new place that looks at everybody not by heritage, but by like you're a human being.
Yeah.
Let's create an environment where we can all be successful.
Well, but what did he also say? It was that if you are used to special treatment, then regular treatment is going to feel like oppression. And I think that's the way that it'll be for a lot of Indigenous people with this. Like you hear of Treaty 6 and Treaty this and that and all of this stuff. And like, I mean, you also hear a lot of the rhetoric with it where it's like, oh, well, we decided we were going to do biological warfare with spreading disease before we even knew how diseases were spread. That's a lot of the rhetoric that goes around. What happened in residential schools? Like there were a lot of people who had good accounts, and I read an article on my show when I did a video about when they were saying that there were thousands of graves and this and that had happened. I did a video where I had read an article where someone was saying, who was Indigenous, was saying none of this stuff was talked about, and there wasn't any talk of bad treatment before there was money involved in it, before the government was going to be paying out some sort of reparations towards. And I'm not saying that nothing happened in residential schools that was bad, but also like some of the things, like, yes, there are some bad stories where there was bad things that happened. But like, even when my dad went to school, he went to just a normal school. And the teachers would hit you, the principals would hit you, they'd swat you with rulers and this and that. Time. It was a different time. So how much of that is that, and how much of that is actual like racist treatment and horrible treatment in this, or how much of that is just to sow division between people to say you were oppressed, your ancestors were oppressed, so that way we don't get together and be like, hey, the way the government is treating us is bad, because the government wants to sow so much division between us and everybody else that doesn't think the same way, because then they can justify a bigger government to rule over all of these small groups. That's why we see mass migration. That's why we see differences between rhetoric of COVID. That's why they'll say that the trucker convoy was like this racist thing with they were holding up Nazi flags when none of this happened, and that it wasn't peaceful, and it was like they were taking over the city, and they tried to treat it like what January 6th was in the United States, which, I mean, I don't agree with what the rhetoric was with January 6th. I think that it was actually just, it had started out as a peaceful thing. Some people became unpeaceful. That doesn't mean that anybody that participated in January 6th was an insurrectionist, but they're using the convoy to be like our version of that. So they can use all the same rhetoric that these mainstream media outlets in the United States use for January 6th. They can use that same rhetoric against the trucker convoy in Alberta or in Canada. And that's absolutely insane. It's all just to sow division. And if you go, hey, what's the real issue? The government is oppressing all of us equally, and they hate every single person that lives here, whether you're Indigenous or not. Like, if they actually like the Indigenous people, would they still be having issues with having no running water? Would they actually have the issues that they have? Have you been to a reserve? Like there's a reserve near me, somewhat near me. And if you drive through them, it doesn't really seem like like they're creating the greatest conditions for their people. And the government is not, like, any of the government money that they send to them is actually helping anybody at all. So I don't know. It's all just to sow more division, because when you're fighting with other people, you're not going to be fighting with the government. And that's what they want. I think it's a very ancient tactic. Yeah.
Of we need two groups, because if we have two groups, we can sow division between them so that they go to war with each other. And I don't mean actual like physical war. I just mean animosity. Certainly it can bleed over into other things, but like you sow division. You have two groups, you create a divide, and as the divide grows, they talk less, and that's where bad things can happen. That's what terrified me in the middle of COVID. I had Jamie Sinclair sit in that chair, and he talked about how you get two different groups. We had two different groups. Then you divide them, and you say you won't have access to health care, and you put that in a national paper. And
you can't fly on a plane. You can't go on a train.
And you sow these two groups.
Yeah.
And then when you have the two groups, you get them arguing, and then, government just gets to do what it wants to do. Nobody's paying attention to all the insanity. What does a tyrant fear most? It's people. And especially if they all come together. And so, when you go back to Alberta, can we find a way out of this? I believe we can.
I think we can. I think we need a little less division on the separation side, or I guess independent side, whichever you like to say. Where you don't have these people that now they're starting to attack Danielle Smith. I like Danielle Smith. I think she's a very good leader for our province. And I would think like all of these people on the separation side, they're like, Danielle Smith doesn't want this. I don't think she necessarily wants it, but I think she will allow to happen what the people want, because I think she's one of the only ones. I think she serves the people the best out of any of the politicians that we have in Canada. Does that mean she's perfect? No, but I would not like to see it start vote splitting, like with where people start going to the Republican Party. And I mean, vote whichever way you feel is best. But when you start going, Danielle Smith doesn't want this, therefore we need to vote for other people and we need to do this without her and this and that, then you're going to get it where the NDP is going to win. And then do you think Nenshi will care about any of you wanting to leave? Do you think Nenshi will care about anybody at all other than himself? No, he's absolutely crazy. And look at the people that he talks to and all of his things. He doesn't talk to any normal like left-wing Albertan who's like, yeah, I don't agree with Danielle Smith, but I also don't agree with this and that. He's talking to only the people who want to like trans your kids and take away your rights and your freedoms in Alberta. And he wants to work directly with the Liberal federal government in order to take away more of your freedoms and make Alberta like the rest of Canada. So, I mean, if it's an alternative of, there's three best options. It's that we separate would be the best option. The second would be that we just at least keep Danielle Smith. And the worst option would be that we have Nenshi as leader, because then we don't get anything that we want and we lose all of our freedoms. Like we'll just end up like another Ontario at some point. But I do have faith that we won't get him in necessarily, because we are the largest concentration of conservative voters in the world in Alberta.
I don't know if you have an answer to this. This is more of just a question, I guess. How do you bring people together? And, like I talked to a guy who went through residential school. This is a long time ago. And he was sexually abused by one of the teachers there.
But kids are still sexually abused by their teachers.
No.
I mean. Yeah.
I don't mean to point. Sorry, I don't mean to point it out as saying that is now every kid who attended a residential school.
I know you're not, but what I mean is like you hear that and then it's like, oh, well, they did it to everybody and that's the rhetoric. There's still like in my school that I went to, two of my teachers who I actually liked and thought were like nice people, they got fired like 2 years later because they were like sexually abusing people, and that didn't happen to me. I had a good experience through high school. Nobody did anything to me that was wrong, but you hear that sort of stuff and they'll shout that stuff the loudest. But there are people who have good accounts when they went to residential schools, and nobody talks about it at all, is what I mean.
What I was getting to was, or what I was going to try and position was, I keep having the same conversation with relatively similar people.
Yeah.
It's conservatives who are upset with how things are going, see how everything's going, and it is a big block of people that want out. And I'm like, okay, is that enough? Is that enough to get us out? I don't know. What would be great is if, and I've tried, maybe I need to try harder, folks. I've tried really hard to get some people from the reserves to come on and talk, because I'd be very curious their perspective.
Yeah, I heard you mention that in one of your episodes.
I'd be very, very, very curious if they're just like, no, we like the current system, we're not leaving, and don't care what Danielle Smith or any of the conservatives have to say, we want no part of it. Or do they have a different thought? Because I'm like, that would add into, I think, balancing out the conversation of like, what do you actually think? Like, do you think this is an insane idea, or do you think there's more to it? That's my idea of trying to, it won't create unity right off the hop,
no,
but allowing some different voices into the conversation instead of having relatively similar conversations over and over and over again. Because we can all see how media and government position the conversation.
Yeah, as though we're evil traitors.
Right.
And we hate Canada. It's like,
right.
Well, we actually like Canada a lot. Just don't like the way Canada is going.
Is governed.
Yeah. And the way it's going. Like, I mean, yeah, what was your original question?
I guess the question is, how do we create more unity or more of like a movement? There's a giant movement happening.
By just going, do you want to be left alone? Yes. Well, then you want to separate but we have to.
When you went to the NDP event and you talked to them, okay?
Yeah.
And you're sitting there, Do you think that conversation he left and went, or they then went, I don't even know how to, forgive me.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, did they go away from that conversation going, huh, that was interesting?
Probably. I don't think that. I think that yes, because I think the general person that you'll talk to who is somewhat political is is open to these conversations. When you get to the point where you're like, I'm not willing to talk to anybody else, and I just want to be stuck in an echo chamber. Well, then you're already in the wrong spot, and you're not going to be hearing the other side. What I think is good is to actually, like, I listen to news that's on the other side. Like, I listen to Gavin Newsom's podcast.
Okay.
So I hear crazy stuff about Trump. And so you'll also be able to point out the problem. So one thing about quick on Gavin Newsom is you know how horrible he is, right? You know how horrible he is for California. So do I. I'm extremely political. But when you listen to him and the way that he's positioning everything towards these people, I could imagine a world in which I would vote for him. Not because of what he does, but because he's trying to do the way that he talks and how charismatic he is. So if you don't listen to that sort of stuff, then you'll still find people caught in the trap, because if you listen to that and you figure out what he's doing, then you can go, well, he said this, but this is wrong. He's talking like this, but he did actually this.
Plus, if you're a Gavin Newsom listener and you assume that Josh doesn't listen to it, and you go, well, actually, this is what he said, and then you actually know about the situation, you go, actually, no. And you could have counterpoints that they would maybe listen to, and might be even surprised that you listened to it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, his thing is, I like him. Not any of his policies, not any of his things, but I like how he's a good speaker. He's charismatic. He's positioning himself as a moderate in a lot of ways, and that's bad if you don't listen to him, because if you're in the United States, because then you go, oh, Gavin Newsom's a crazy left winger.
He'll never get elected.
He doesn't come off as crazy, and I think he could get elected if they're not careful, because what they're going to, in the United States, a quick thing, they're going to position. If it's J.D. Vance versus Gavin Newsom in 2028, they'll position J.D. Vance as everything Trump and Gavin Newsom as everything moderate. Nothing Biden, nothing Harris, nothing this. Like, he'll just be positioned as this moderate running against the evil Trump administration, and that's bad. And they're trying to do the same thing a lot in Canada with Pierre versus Carney, where it's like Pierre's this big MAGA guy. I don't really see anything MAGA about Pierre at all. He doesn't seem like he's saying anything the same way. But then Carney is positioned as like this hero for us, that he's going to fight Trump. And he has done nothing but back down to Trump. And he's Trump's friend. He has 103 conflicts of interest. He's nothing Canada. There's nothing Canadian about him, because, I mean, I read his book. It's insane. The Communist Manifesto is much, much shorter if you want to read a book that's like it. He talks about putting carbon taxes as tariffs on other countries. So if he's talking about a carbon tax tariff, that sounds a lot more like Trump than what Pierre's talking about. I'm not saying tariffs are good or bad or anything, but I'm saying a carbon tax tariff is stupid. And Carney is so anti-Canada, but he's positioned as though he's good. And if you're not listening,
he's positioned as he's the defender of Canada.
Yeah, and if you just go, I write Carney off, I'm not going to listen to anything he says. Well, then you don't know anything to say to counter any of his arguments. So I think it's important to listen to both sides.
No, I admire that. I really do, because it really gives a depth to your arguments in your conversation. Yeah, honestly, I really like that. You know, like if I bring it back to Alberta, what's going on with the teachers right now? I've watched some of your videos. I'm sure you have lots of thoughts on what's happening. My initial reaction to it is, in COVID, none of the healthcare professionals were allowed to speak at the start. They gave one voice to the health authority spokesperson, right? We all remember, I can't even remember her name anymore. That's terrible. Who was the lady from Alberta that was always on with the premier? You know who I'm talking about?
What do you mean
on the press conferences?
Oh, I forget her name. I thought you were talking
That's
about
terrible.
I thought you were talking about the NDP one, but I always call her Grimace from McDonald's. The NDP one, the shadow health minister. I forget her name. Because I always say Grimace, but
I can hear the text line starting to fire at me right now. I'm gonna look it up because it's gonna bug me. Hinshaw. Oh man, that's terrible. Okay, so the reason I point this out, try and wrap this point up. I tried reaching out to my local health authority to like reduce fear, to give balance to the conversation, to like, if you are sick, this is where you should go. And they said we're not allowed to talk. And so when I fast forward so you had one person talking in each province, roughly. Mm-hmm. When you fast forward to the teachers' strike right now, although Alberta Proud Dad has had a teacher on, Chris Sims has had a teacher on. When you go, yeah, but they say there's 51,000. Is it 30,000? Is it 51,000?
They say it's 35,000 active, but that still doesn't bring the total that high. Like they try so much to just
But they don't allow them to speak.
No, and why would you want to? Like, I mean, that's the thing. I am so against unions. I am probably the least pro-union person because unions are insane. The unions go, you can't speak, but we're not going to pay you while you're on strike. And we're going to, you have to go on strike. We're not going to pay you for it. We don't, all the union wants is more people. Like, the reason they want more teachers is because they want more union dues, but they don't save any of that money to pay you when you're on strike. Who are they paying in these union dues? The union looks out for itself.
But don't you think there's some teachers right now who probably went along for COVID.
Yep.
That are sitting there, probably a little left-leaning. Maybe they voted for Danielle, maybe they didn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're sitting there watching this going, something is off here. Like, we've been paying into this union, 23 years since the strike. There's got to be some 23-year teachers there, 10-year teachers there that have paid a lot of money into it.
And they've got nothing in return.
And they're looking and going, something's off here. Why? Don't you think that's a wake-up call to a bunch of teachers?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know of some teachers that voted to not strike because they're like, this is stupid. The same thing. They're not going to get paid by the union. They have no problem with what they're making now. Like, I mean, like a teacher in the United States makes $36,000 US a year. And they say no matter what they do in their entire career, they'll never make $100,000. In 5-10 years, you're making $100,000 as a teacher in Alberta.
7 years, you're at 100 and... Isn't it 100?
I thought it was 10, you were at 110.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
But regardless, you start off, you're 70-some thousand.
70,000 was the offer.
And then 7 years, you're at $100,000. I think that's roughly the math I'd heard.
And I think you'll have a hard time finding sympathy from the person who is working outside in minus 30, who is not making that
truck
amount
driver
of money.
isn't gonna, or.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can get and that's the thing with trucking. You can make a lot of money doing trucking.
Sure, but you have to be a truck driver, and you got to go do that.
Yeah, you're not going 8 hours a day. Like me, I'm in in the summertime. I do, sometimes 100 hours a week that I'm working. And not all of it's driving because there's obviously the rules behind that and everything. But still, you do about 100 hours a week and it's like you're working a lot outside. So I have a hard time having sympathy for somebody who's working 8 hours a day or gets the summer off. So, and making $100,000 a year for that. I mean, it's good. Pay them whatever. It doesn't really matter to me that much. As long as they're not trying to, I think the biggest issue with parents and stuff is that they're trying to indoctrinate the students, especially in Edmonton public schools, because they're strategic of where they're doing all of this stuff. They're not going to do it. Like my local school has, I would assume, probably 200 kids from K to 12 or K to 9. And I don't think they're doing any of that there. I don't think they're doing any of this indoctrination stuff. They're not trying to trans your kids there. But in Edmonton public schools, they are. And Nenshi himself said, the most important rule of education is don't be evil. So then why does he go up right afterwards and he's talking to a teacher and has him go up on their little stage and talk about how evil Danielle Smith is when he's wearing a shirt that says Edmonton Public School, and I showed this, is printed in the trans colors. So if the most important rule is don't be evil, they're already breaking their rule.
They don't think it's evil.
But it is.
I know, but they don't think it is.
This is the thing that I am most opposed on is everything that the government does to children, because children are the most innocent. They are the most good. And that's what the devil, which the government serves, wants to corrupt the most. So what they're going to go after is children, like they're talking about made for teenagers. Now they will close they're fine with
mature minors.
They're fine with killing kids up to 9 months in the womb. And then so there's a gap from 0 to 13 years old where they won't kill you. They're slowly closing that gap. And in the meantime, they're trying to make it so that way you will be as mentally ill as possible. So that way eventually you'll kill yourself in between that. Because the government, this is the thing that I don't think enough people realize. The government is the biggest, like the leading cause of death in the world and the leading cause of death throughout history. You have a history degree. Don't you?
Yes, I do.
Are you
Yep.
familiar with the Soviet Union?
Oh, absolutely.
So you know how many people the Soviet Union killed, Mao's China, all these communist countries, how many they killed, and how many were killed probably after World War II as well. More people were killed after World War II than during World War II from all of these different concentration camps that the Russians were running in Germany, that they were running all over the place. It was absolutely insane, and they just turn a blind eye to it. The government is the biggest, what would it be, entity that wants to kill you in the world. And so when people don't realize that, then they go, oh, the government has our best interests. They're giving us money and they're doing this and they're offering us aid. Because what does the government do after they kill you? They sell your organs now in Canada.
Yes, they're now harvesting your organs.
They harvest your organs and then they sell them. So they're making money off you even after you die. So the argument that, well, they want to keep you alive so you can pay taxes, well, that's off the table, because first of all, they want to own everything, and they do not care about you, and they'll find an Indian to come in and replace you in 10 seconds. If you die, I don't think they want them to die, the immigrants to die, as much as they want the actual Canadians to. And that's something that I don't think many people realize, or they might say, oh, you're crazy for talking about this. The government doesn't actually want you dead. And it's like, well, look at all of the evidence out in front of you. MAID is one of the biggest factors.
So, was it 2 years ago now? Have we seen the 2024 death statistics, folks?
It's the fourth leading cause of death in Canada.
It was 4.7%. 1 in 20 people.
1 in 20.
1 in 20 deaths were made, and that number from 2016, when it started, it's just been this crazy. They talk about the hockey stick graph. Well, this is just a mountain climb of growth and MAID. Honestly, you can't go anywhere, I would think, anymore. Like, I just think of my own community and how many people have used it or have family members who've used it.
I know family members, but I know family members who know people who have done it.
It's become a part of the conversation, whereas in 2016, I would say people didn't even know what MAID was. Right. Yeah. And since then, they've created the 2-track system. They've talked about foreseeable, unforeseeable death, mature minors. And, they've entered in, it was just in a parliamentary hearing where a lady was talking about, homeless, disabilities. That's not quality of life. Right. And now MAID,
you can't afford stuff. You can't afford stuff. You should get MAID. You can go to a pharmacist. You can go to a pharmacist and you can get the pills to take that will kill you. That's insane. It's unprecedented, the ease of access that they do for this, but they won't do anything to make your life more affordable. They won't do anything to let you afford a house. They won't do anything to let you afford anything in your life. Like, one thing, people wonder why Gen Z and older and I guess younger millennials are the most conservative generations that we've seen in a long, long time. And it's like, well, maybe it could be because the government is doing all this. They can't afford anything. They can't afford homes, and not even to mention that 1/3 of Gen Z is missing. And
what do you mean 1/3 of Gen Z is missing?
1/3 of Gen Z has been aborted. The abortion is the leading cause of death in North America. 40 million people have been killed because of it. And then they'll also but then they go out and they look around and they see, well, none of these other people have problems getting houses. Like, none of the immigrants that they bring in have problems getting houses. None of the people that are refugees have problems getting houses. Like, do you know how much they pay refugees? Have you seen the leaked documents? I can text them to you as well. $81,000 a year for if you factor in hotel and meal costs. That's what they're giving to migrants to afford, or refugees to afford living here. And that's only if it's like one person. If you assume that the amount per day that they give to, say, a family of 4, that would be 84 times 4 that they would give to them, unless they're all supposed to share $84 a day or something like that, then it works out to $174,000 a year if it's a family of 4 sharing the same hotel room that they give to them. Not to mention, they're probably not paying taxes on any of that. Whereas that's like $81,000 a year is already above the median household salary in Canada. And we have, it's on track by the end of the year that between expired or ready to expire visas, by the end of the year, 4 million people will be here on expired visas. In temporary work visas, student visas, all of that, and they protest. They go to Parliament and they protest, and they don't get shut down. Whereas if you protest the government trying to lock you down and force you to take vaccines, they'll send you to prison, or they'll send you
House
18
arrest
months of
for
house
18
arrest.
months and the longest mischief trial in Canadian history.
And see, my first reaction to that was, oh, good, it's only house arrest. House arrest still sucks. House arrest is still taking away your freedoms. For what? For trying to stand up for Canada, and all they're trying to do is sow discouragement. But I don't think, one part of what I think is they can't arrest all of us. So I think it's more time that people in Canada start to actually realize how much the government doesn't like you and starts to fight back against it peacefully, but like with more protests. Start protesting it, because they can't arrest everybody. There's ways that you can set up a protest where there's no official organizer and all of that sort of a thing. So especially with social media now, and that's why they want to shut it down. But I think that it's time for people to actually start fighting for the country, because there's another alternative. Right now, why isn't the government talking about Alberta separation, the federal government? The federal government is not talking about Alberta separation because they think that it's keeping people distracted. So in the meantime, what people need to think of is what happens if Alberta separation doesn't work. I think that Canada itself can be saved, but it will take a lot of work from a lot of good people in order to save it. Because like with the distraction, the angle is that I think they're going, well, Alberta doesn't actually care about what's going on in Canada. They're preoccupied with their separation thing. Let's let them have it. We'll stop it in court. So either we don't let them stop it in court when it does happen, or if it's a no vote, then we take the fight to them and we go, we're going to take back our country in a peaceful way, of course, and you have to say that because otherwise people think you're inciting violence, which I'm not. But we have to, Canada, and here's the thing too, they say a lot, it'll take 20 years to fix Canada. That's stupid. It would take 3, if not 4 at the most to fix Canada if you had somebody in politics with an actual work ethic. I think 20 years is a scapegoat by weak politicians, even on the conservative side, who think that, if we tell them it's going to take 20 years, we can take 20 years to do it. No, we need to actually demand change, because countries have been fixed a lot faster in the past. And yeah.
Is Josh going to enter politics?
I don't think I will. People ask me if I would enter politics, but I would feel, I don't know if it would work in Canadian politics. I feel like if you talk about this stuff and you're a member of the Conservative Party, then you get kicked out pretty quick. Because also like the amount
but foster that, let's stick on that thought for a second, okay? So if you get you want strong politicians in politics.
Yeah. But
if you're a strong politician, you get booted.
Yeah.
Essentially. That's essentially, so it's a conundrum, because if you're a strong politician, you get booted. So you look at BC, Dallas Brody, right?
Yeah.
They started One BC, and they're in politics. And one of two things is going to happen. That's either going to draw people to their cause, and One BC is going to grow, or nobody agrees with them, and it's going to shrink and fizzle out and die, and we're going to have more of what we've had for years to come.
Is One BC the only alternative right-wing party in BC?
That's a good question. BC folks, you can text me.
Let's say it is. Then that's good. What we have a problem with in federal politics in Canada is that everybody gets upset and they go, I want to be leader, so I'm going to now start my own party because I'm upset with the Conservative Party. And then we have like 18,000 different alternative right-wing parties. I like for example, the PPC. I like all of their policies, but I don't like Maxime Bernier because he lives in Florida and he seems to be somewhat of a grifter to me. I like from the United Party, Grant Abraham. You've had him on the show. I like his policies, but he's also not loud. Like nobody's loud in politics, which is somewhat the problem, or loud enough in politics. And I got a lot of flack on my channel because I talked about my MP, who I won't name, but my MP, where I said, I was like, my sister had met him and she was telling him to watch my show. So the next episode that I did, I was like, why did we vote for you? Because I don't hear, all he does is retweet Pierre's stuff, doesn't go out and talk, and he's supposed to represent 110,000 people. If you're supposed to represent 110,000 people, then you need to be as loud as 110,000 people would be on all these different issues. Also, when they weren't working, when government was prorogued and all of this stuff, and I mean, yeah, sure, they're working somewhat to the election, but before that, it takes nothing. The barrier to entry is extremely low to take a video of yourself saying things that you think that people are writing to you and talking about the bad things that the Liberal government is doing and post it up on social media. The barrier to entry is very low, so why isn't everybody doing that? And I mean,
probably because the leaders of those parties are saying they can't do that.
Yeah, well, I look at Pierre. I like Pierre. I do. I like him. I went to his rally and I fully supported him. But I think that
he's also the guy that didn't go on Joe Rogan.
He did, yeah. That was the stupidest mistake in probably one of the biggest mistakes in the history of Canadian politics. He could have gone on, and like the thought train for that is, oh well, people won't vote for me if I go on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan's such a moderate, it's insane.
Yeah, but
they go like
their thought process, if I'm looking at it, and maybe you'll disagree with me, was we need to appeal
to the middle.
And most of those weren't going to vote for him anyways.
Yeah, they're not going to. Exactly, that's my point. They're not going to vote for you
going on
anyways.
Joe Rogan, anyone who pays attention to anything relative Joe Rogan goes, he's a moderate. He brings in a ton of different people. But he's a moderate.
Yeah.
And the people who don't watch any Joe Rogan go, that guy's vile,
a right-wing
evil
extremist.
Correct.
Which he's like, if he's a right-wing extremist, and I don't even know what I am, I must be so far off the map. I would consider myself a right-wing populist, which is a little bit different from a conservative. But I just think if he went on Joe Rogan, that would have been better for his campaign. People would have respected him more, and he would have gained more. He would have got. The problem is we need to get more people on the right actually out to vote for these people, because a lot of people, even conservatives that I know, go, well, it's not going to do anything if I go and vote. The guy's going to get it. The MP's going to get it anyway. But it's like, no, it shows intent. It shows that you are willing to go out and vote, and it just gives that much more numbers to that person to go, this many people oppose this stuff.
Don't you, like, maybe I'm wrong on this. I feel like the conservative side of the aisle, there's a lot of people that vote, but the people who don't vote go, they don't think it has any impact. And those people, maybe I'm wrong on this, need to believe in somebody.
Yeah, I think you need somebody.
And in order to believe in somebody, you need somebody who doesn't go, oh, I can't do that. If I do that, I'm going to have consequences. Consequences are in life, man.
Yeah.
You talk openly. You come on this show, Josh is spitting fire, and I go, look at this guy fired up. This is fun, you know? Like, you're a young guy, younger than me. I think we're both young guys, but, you know, it depends on who's talking and who's asking the questions.
I think I'm kind of old, but I don't know.
You're far from old. I'll send you through some comments, because I'm going to get some from you lovely folks that are going to be laughing at him for saying that, because you're definitely not old. And I don't think I'm old.
76, so.
Well, I just don't think either one of us are old.
Yeah.
You know, and we got young families. How many kids you got?
One.
Well, congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
Fatherhood is... Man, it is a ton of fun.
It's the only time that you'll actually share a title with God is when you're a father. So that's kind of interesting. I heard that too. Somebody told me that right before we had our daughter, and I think it's the best thing. And that's part of why I'm so fired up about all of this stuff, is because I have children, and at the end of my life, I want to be able to look them in the eye and be able to tell them that I did absolutely everything that I could in order to make sure that this land that our people, like our ancestors, came from is still their land in that time. And I think that if you were to do everything that you possibly could to help and win this fight and win Western civilization and to save it from these tyrannical people who want to take everything from you, then I think that that's one of the ways that you will live a good and meaningful life.
So I go back to strong. I agree with you. So you go back to strong politicians. But if you get strong politicians, they're probably getting booted out of the party if they're even allowed to run for the party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's ways that you can get around all of that. You just got to be the loudest person ever. And I think we need more. I think we need people with a.
Well, I was just going to say, so if you have a group of strong politicians all go in at the same time, and you had this everybody, they can't shut you all down. They can't boot out 50 MLAs because they're all speaking loud. I
think part of it goes into the money aspect. They make a backbencher makes $209,000 a year. They just voted themselves a raise in May. $209,000 a year that they get for being a backbencher. You're going to want to stop that gravy train because you want to say what you believe.
Well, at some point, Josh, people such as yourself, or maybe people will say such as myself, will get involved, and it won't be for the money.
But we don't necessarily have a strong alternative party. I think the right needs to unite in the alternative. So I think that the United, the Christian Heritage, the PPC, and whatever other ones that are out there.
But you're talking federally.
Yeah, federally. I think they need to unite and form one, say, Reform Party, which we used to have in Canada before they merged with the Conservatives. I think we need to have a proper Reform Party. And if we did, not even that the Reform Party would end up getting elected, but maybe it would put the Conservatives on watch to go, oh, now they're figuring it out. They're going to get into our game now, and we can't, what was Pierre going to cut for spending? He wasn't going to cut any spending.
The people who listen to this show, I shouldn't say that. don't think that's a viable option. I'm going to say...
I know a lot of people that don't think it's a viable
I'm going to
option.
sit here and I'm like, oh, I can already hear the phone starting to ding when I say that. Because there's going to be people that are across Canada that want that to be a viable option. But here in Alberta, the reason why we have such a large movement of independence is because there has been a ton of reformers go down that road and watch it be very effective and then get co-opted, whatever it is, and they go unite the right, and it all falls away, and we get back to the predicament we're in. We're in this cycle. We're in this predicament. How do we get out of the predicament?
Well,
and to get out of the predicament in Alberta wants out. That is a way to get out of this. How do we figure out federal politics? You got strong people in Alberta talking about, let's get out. Let's just get out. And if you want to get out, you need people involved, and you got to make sure that if we get a referendum question on this, that you go vote. And then the person who says, it doesn't matter, it's already a foregone conclusion, you got to grab that person by the arm and go, no, we're going to vote.
Yeah.
And everybody's got to go vote because you get probably one crack at this in a lifetime. Maybe you'll get more, but I would assume, what is it? After that referendum question, you can't ask the same question or something in the same vein for 5 years.
Yeah, which is it'll never happen. We will never have an opportunity to have a referendum again.
So then you go in our lifetime. So you go, all the strong people are talking loud right now. And I keep finding people like yourself. I had no idea who you were. You walk in, you sit in that chair, younger man, I love it. And you're like convicted. We got to get some strong people out there voting, strong people out there talking, strong people getting involved in our communities. We just had the municipal elections. I know from this show, how many is it of you now? 5 that I know of? 6 that all got elected. People are getting involved.
I think it's good, like especially at the municipal level, and that's where the power should be. The power should be the provincial and the municipal. Why do we let the federal government, which is supposed to be small and only handle federal issues, become the end all be all of politics, and you can't oppose them on any other stage? You should be able to oppose them at the municipal level. Like you should be able to, like your mayor should be the most important person to you for votes, or the premier for laws in your province, not the federal government. The federal government should oversee, big things and big projects and negotiate for us based on what the provinces want individually, not based on what they want because they wrote some stupid book and they say they're a European and stuff like. And I mean, to be clear, I do think Alberta separation is the best option, but in the meantime, we need to still focus on the federal and try to elect people that...
I don't know if I agree with you on that.
On what?
I think if Alberta leaving is the best option, then everybody should I'm talking Albertans here, should put their focus and energy into that.
In a way, but in the meantime, they're still going to try to destroy us in every other way. They're still bringing in, 2,500 people a day into our country that don't like you, that hate you, actually. And it's because they hate you. They don't that's one big thing. One big thing I always harp on is immigration. And nobody will oppose immigration more than immigrants who have come here. And I have family that immigrated here from South America. They're not white, which some people have said it's easier for them because they're white and this and that. So nobody opposes it more than those people, because they see how hard it was to get to Canada. And now you get people who just get a free ride. And I mean, that's the thing. Nobody wants this level of immigration. People may be afraid to say it for fear of being called racist. Like, I'm not a racist, but I get called racist a lot because I oppose mass immigration of people from, like, the mass third worlding of our country. And that's something that I have such a problem with I have such a problem with the government telling us that our culture needs to be enriched and this and that from a bunch of people from the third world. Like, it's like we built the entire world. So I think we're good on enrichment. That's not the thing that we were missing, was a bunch of people from a country where the average IQ is 70. That's not what I think we were missing. And by when I say that we built the entire world, I mean white Christians.
I can see why you get some flack online. I'm all here for man, this has been a fun morning. Like you wonder who a person is, and I'm glad you came and did it in studio too, because I'm like, then I get to sit across from you and do this interaction.
I don't like virtual interviews. I find them. I mean, I do like it. I like.
No, it's opened up the world for sure.
It has, definitely, but I like whenever it's at all possible. I would like to do in person, because I feel like it's just different. It's different. It would be different if you were sitting on a computer screen.
100%. Yeah. No, there's
Right
nothing.
here.
There's nothing that compares to sitting across from somebody and having a discussion.
But you wouldn't hear as many. Like, I mean, you have a lot of people virtual, and I really like listening to your
when
show.
When I first started the show, the goal was to have nobody virtual. But that was, if you go back and listen to the first, I don't know what it was, 50 interviews roughly, they were all in person. And then COVID hit, and nobody wanted to come anywhere. And I wasn't, once again, I go back to it. I believed the government narrative. I believed in what media was talking about. So I went, okay, well, we'll do it virtually then. And I had to figure all those hoops out, and you carry on. And now it's allowed access to some of the voices I would have never ever gotten. So I have a ton of time for virtual, but nothing ever compares to in studio. It's why Rogan does all in studio. It's why Tucker Carlson, Shaun Ryan, I'm sure you can list off a whole bunch of others. They're all in person. Why? Because it is the best way to sit and converse with somebody. Full stop. I still go back, though. I don't mean put no energy into the federal problems.
Yeah.
I just go, if you're only getting one crack at a referendum on whether Alberta can start down the path of fixing Alberta, and we both agree that's probably the best avenue to fix this problem, I say burn the boats, focus on Alberta. And
in a way, I think they're gonna. I think it's going to be if we vote yes, it's still going to be a long fight to actually get to it.
But we got to get to a yes vote. You can't have the fight after without the yes vote.
Yes, of course. And I think that is a very good point that we do need that. But I still do. I try to also focus on the federal because they're still the ones in the meantime that are trying to take they're trying to put you you having this podcast. We can probably be cellmates at some point because they're trying to some of the rules around this with the bill C2, C8 and C9 is they can tap into your computers and your phones without you knowing due to spyware that they have for some reason. And the RCMP can enter your house without a warrant at any time and search your house if you're suspected of hate speech online, which is just speech that the government hates. They can open your mail. They can do they can put you in jail for up to life.
So how do we solve all that?
Stronger politicians getting louder about it. Also not shutting up. If everybody, I guarantee this will shut a lot of people up and will stop a lot of people from saying this stuff. But if you're not one that's if nobody quiets down, there's nothing that they can actually do. They can't put everybody in prison. I mean, they may start re-education camps where Justin Trudeau and Christian Freeland will tell you about the importance of COVID and social distancing.
That'd be tough.
Climate change. And I mean, it'll be, have you seen the movie The Island?
Yes.
Okay, where it'll be played like a screen right in front of you like that. I think that, but still, they can't lock everybody up. And when they see that there's so much opposition of people that will not shut up, then there's nothing that they can actually do. They don't have any power except which you freely give up. And I mean, you saw that with the Soviet, or it gets really bad because either this stuff just accelerates the decline of Canada, like no deals, no money, no this, our debt, our deficits and all of this just accelerates the decline of Canada. We can build it back better. Or we can actually stop it before it does happen. Because I have hope either way. If Canada really just falls and becomes nothing, I wanted to also offer a different perspective on the people moving out of Canada thing. But if they actually do this and everything, let's say Canada just goes down and we just fall, we become a falling country where our currency is worth nothing and all of this stuff, it's okay, we can just build it back better. I still have hope then. Because I have, a diluted sense of self-confidence and confidence in the country where it's the harder it gets, I mean, day one of COVID, did we have the Freedom Convoy? And if we did have the Freedom Convoy, would it have been successful? The answer is simply no. Yeah.
People they don't move from a place of comfort. They need things to get difficult in order to motivate them.
Yeah.
And that really sucks, because you're you can see what's coming. You can see it. It sucks. I don't know how long out it is. But, if we keep on this current track,
if they pass censorship, the next thing is UBI. After that, it's famine and it's death. That's how, the Soviet Union, what happened in the Soviet Union, and then what happened after that. When if the government goes down and they become this authoritarian thing, this authoritarian entity, if they do that, well, then there's still a way out of that. I still have hope, but I mean, it just gets a little bit worse then, and it's a little bit tougher to oppose, but they can still be opposed. I mean, look at the fall of the Soviet Union. It happens. I would hope that it wouldn't take quite as long. And I mean, it's tough, but people that think that it can't happen, that the government doesn't hate you, they want you happy and prosperous. And this, they absolutely do not. They got look at North Korea. North Korea in my grandpa, his lifetime, they were free. They were a free country when he was born. It wasn't until 1946 or 48, I forget which one it was, but that they became what
Have
they
I
are now.
found somebody who dislikes the government as much as I do? I'm like I'm a little bit not surprised. That's not the right word, but I'm like, I think Josh dislikes the government as much as I do.
There's nothing that I like. I think it's just grown too big. It needs to be extremely small.
Yeah.
It needs to leave you alone. I would prefer it if it was just more of a Christian theocracy. And most people say we don't want a Christian theocracy. I think we actually do, because Christianity is the only religion, if you want to, I would call it a faith, but it's the only religion that actually allows you to not believe in it freely. If you want, what do you want? Sharia law, where they want to kill you if you don't believe it, or like any other religion opposes you not believing in it. And I mean, that's why it's the most persecuted religion, because why would the devil want to persecute people from a religion that he created? He wouldn't. That's why Christianity is the most persecuted, because it's the only one he didn't create. And I would like a Christian theocracy would be actually good. And people who are not even Christian wouldn't be opposed to our country becoming more Christian, because like I said, it's the only one that allows you to not believe in it as well. And our countries were all Christian. Like, you hear about the separation of church and state, and people go, oh, well, that's actually a good idea. I think it's a horrible idea, because we have not separated church and state. We just traded the Church of Jesus for the Church of Satan. And now, like, I mean, look at it. They want, like, if you say Christ is king, which he is, they say that that's an anti-Semitic statement. Even the Conservative Party of Canada will say that that's anti-Semitism. And it's not. I don't mean anything anti-Semitic about it. I just mean Christ is king. Jesus Christ is king. And that's the only thing that will actually right this wrong that has been done by our countries, if we actually establish that. Because look at Poland. They're prospering. And they've done it without immigration. They've done it with maintaining. They literally said that Jesus Christ is the king of their nation. And they like signed some sort of a thing as though he is the figurative king of that nation. And look at them. They're prospering. They're a $1 trillion economy. They're out like ahead of so many other countries that have gone down this thing of going, oh, immigration is the only way that we do this. If we become more secular, we're going to be a better country, and all of this stuff. And it's like, what has that gotten us? Better or worse? Has the country gotten better or worse in the last 50 years since we've abandoned Christ and abandoned any even just good moral clarity? And where do morals even come from? They only come from God. So I mean, yeah, what do we have now? It's worse.
How long have you been doing your show?
8 months.
Yeah, I just feel like you're one of the people I run across where I'm like, I've never even heard of you, and then I'm like, I feel like there's going to be a ton of Albertans or Canadians who listen to the show are going to be like, who is this guy? You know?
I'm a concerned citizen. That's what I say when the left,
Who's a truck driver?
When they go on and they go,
it's another
who do you
truck
think
driver.
you are? I'm a concerned citizen. I am. I'm concerned. I would not do this show if there weren't problems. I would much prefer to just hang out with my wife, with my daughter, and my family that all lives close to me, and just hang out there and just be quiet and do nothing. But the current climate has not allowed for that as much.
Well, I just keep finding younger people than me that are very convicted. I mean that in the best possible sense. That are speaking up more and more. It's happening more and more and more.
Well, I partly think that's a good thing, because I think it's our time.
No, I think it's a great thing.
I think it's our time to, I mean, I'm not saying you were meaning it in a bad way, but I mean.
No. I want to make sure that it doesn't come off in a bad way. I just, sometimes I can't phrase it the right way my brain's thinking it. I think it's a wonderful thing. There's a ton of young people finding their voices and coming out and spitting fire against the establishment and saying, this isn't right. We don't want to go this way anymore.
Well, I think it's partly our time. Like, why would we expect the older gen, like you hear boomer rhetoric, like why would we expect them to go and fight this fight for us? It's going to be our country. They had their time. They did well. Like, they literally, Stephen Harper, he was, I don't know if he's boomer, Gen X, whatever, but he was an older person. He did his time. I don't expect him to come back and fix it. We need younger people to come back and start fixing this stuff. And that's another thing that I don't like. I don't like it when people around my age are just like, oh, video games are did you see the new show on Netflix? It's like, that kind of stuff is stupid. And, oh, did you see this funny video on TikTok? Haha, it's great. It's like, oh no, well, the government's trying to kill you. So what's so hilarious about that? Like, I don't know. It's stupid. Bringing
Josh to a party is probably like setting off a nuke.
I don't go to parties. I like to work and spend time with my family. I don't go to much conservative events. Some of them, sure. The only event I've been to is an NDP. I watch all the conservative ones, but I don't like to go to
Josh,
these...
what are you doing on the weekend? I'm going to an NDP event. What?
Well, it's fun because then I literally just go into it going, people will start arguing with me, and I like that. I don't mind arguing with people because I know what I believe and I know what I think, and I've done the work for it. And like, I mean, it's good. You do see a lot more younger people, and some of them I think are doing it half-heartedly. Some are doing, and no, I'm not calling out anybody in particular, any other YouTubers or anything like that, but you hear like, why did it take Charlie Kirk getting shot for people to start talking about the country? And I'm not saying that in any bad way. It's good that people are starting to talk about it, but I don't know, like, for example, Turning Point Canada. Why didn't we create something like that before? We tried Turning Point Canada, it didn't work. Why do people think it's going to work all of a sudden? And why does everybody just want to be the next Charlie Kirk? Go into it not wanting to be the next Charlie Kirk. Go into it because you actually care about our country and about, like, that's what I'm like, the split on the right of all these different parties. Like, everybody wants to be their own, like, the big leader, and they're fine to do it when they can be the big leader, but nobody's fine with just doing it to just actually get more people, like, I mean, radicalized is a bad term, but to get more people radicalized to go out and to actually enter politics and to volunteer and to do this sort of stuff and to actually just care enough about their country. Why do they have to do it?
Why do they have to be the guy?
Yeah, why do you want to? Why everybody wants to be the
One
guy.
of the cool things I saw in Ottawa was certainly there was the guys that were leading it, but the cool stories were the people that started shoveling the sidewalks or the garbage. There was no garbage cans, right? And so one man took it upon himself, and maybe there was a whole bunch of people. I just remember one man took it upon himself to start putting out garbage bags everywhere and then collecting them to get the garbage out of there. I'm like, the garbage man.
That's a big help. And like,
well, that's playing a role. That's playing.
Definitely.
You don't win. Once again, I bring up hockey, but Oilers. Do you need Connor McDavid? Yeah, you absolutely do.
Yeah. But you still need everyone else. You can't win it alone.
Connor McDavid is finding out you can't win it alone. He takes a sweetheart deal to stay in Edmonton, so hopefully they can bring in the role players to fill the roles to help them win a cup.
Yeah.
When you're building out a movement, the people are going to decide who the guy is
and
or gal is, right? They're going to decide.
For sure.
And then you still need the strong support system to go do all the things to make that a successful movement or event, I mean, there's a ton of different things that people can do. And in Ottawa, there was the garbage guy, there was a laundry guy, there was a ton of guys and gals, I should point out. There was a ton of women there who just started doing like little things that nobody would ever think of.
And
the little things matter.
And that probably stopped them from saying that this rally was, they just left garbage everywhere, and they were vandalizing everything, just throwing their garbage all over the place.
There was a group that oh man, was it James? Forgive me, James, if it was James. There was a group right at the start of it, first night, 2 a.m. They went out to the parliamentary area and picked up all the garbage. And they started doing it at 2 a.m. after all the protests had gone to bed. They'd go out and pick it all up. And I think it was by like the 3rd or 4th night, they stopped because there was no garbage.
Yeah, and that's good. And that's what I mean. That helps. Like, even if it's as simple as sharing Shaun's show, if there's a good interview with somebody that you like even if it's like I really liked with Chuck Prodnick. I really liked that one. And you got to have him on even more. But like that.
Well, Rod Giltaca and Chuck Prodnick were just in town. So by the time this airs, Chuck has actually been back on.
Oh,
with
good.
Rod Giltaca, because we went and shot guns together.
Yeah.
Out at.
I wanted to come to that, but I was at the rally. Saturday I was like up from 2 a.m. till 7 p.m. Like just
it was a super healthy day. But Chuck and Rod Giltaca sat in those chairs. I don't know.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, but I mean, that sort of thing, if somebody like him is on and you're like, oh, I like this, I want to share it so that somebody can see what's going on, or somebody has a story, that it's the simple things like that if everybody starts to do some small thing, then it can be 100% better. Everything can get 100% better. And if you, like, for example, you with the podcast, it must be tough if they're going to try to put you in prison for it. But I mean, if you don't stop doing it, then that's good. I mean, I think Alberta's a little bit more safe because I think Danielle Smith will still put up a bit of a fight against it.
I read Proverbs every morning, and so I forget, once again, I don't have Tanner in a day's mind where I can just rattle it off. But, like, The prudent man sees the storm and takes safe shelter. The simple basically gets destroyed. I'm paraphrasing because, once again, I don't have Tanner Naday's mind. So, I'm not a moron when it comes to seeing what the government is doing, but I also believe in Jesus Christ. So I look at it and I go, I'm not afraid of it.
That's why you have a hope that transcends everything else.
I look at all these conversations and I go, if this is what lands me in prison, this is going to shock a ton of people out of their apathy.
Yeah.
To be like, holy crap, what is going on? Do I want that future?
No.
I
well,
want
because
to
you have kids, you have a wife, you have.
I want to avoid that
as
as much as I possibly can. I don't want that. I want nothing to do with that. But like at the same token, I'm also not fearful of it. It's just like we got to keep talking.
I said on my show, what are they going to do? Kill me? Send me to my Lord? Like the best possible outcome? We know who wins in the end. That's the hope that's found in Christ, is that we know who wins. The end is already written. But I don't think it has to be all horrible until we get there. There will be a time for that in the end times. But I don't know whether or not we're living in it. So you can just do the best to make it better as you go. I think there is another form of, what would that be? Not having faith in God, that would, like unfaithfulness, that would make you go, oh, well, God's already got it, so we don't have to do anything in the meantime. I think we still have to work very hard at it. Like the Bible said, I forget where, I think it's Galatians, or is it Galatians or Ephesians, where it says, have nothing to do with the fruitless works of darkness, but rather call them out. And so we have to, like, also, am I in, what is it? 1 Corinthians 1:10, where it says, am I now trying to win the opinions of man or of God? If I were still trying to win the approval, sorry. If I were still trying to win the approval of man, I would not be a servant of Christ. So just go for that. Am I trying to win Mark Carney's approval, or am I trying to win God's approval? So I'm not going to do what Mark Carney says if I deem it to be ungodly and not good, because I'm not trying to win his approval. He can do whatever he wants to me in the meantime. It's not going to affect where I'm going. He can do literally whatever they want to start doing to people. If they want to put us into camps, if they want, I'm not saying they are, but if they do want to do that, what are they going to do to me in the end?
Well, if the bills go through, it's going to make doing this show in Canada
a lot harder.
Oof, yeah, extremely difficult.
But I wouldn't stop. I don't want to stop talking about this stuff, because there needs to be some opposition. If I fall in line, what does that say to everyone else? And maybe it might be, and like, I don't think anybody's a coward for not doing this sort of stuff because of it. When people are afraid, like, just like, I don't think anybody's a coward for wanting to leave Canada, but I don't personally want to leave Canada yet. I guess we can get into that a little bit if you want.
Sure.
To. Where I was thinking about it, because you had what's his name on the show, the other YouTuber guy from
Clyde
BC.
Do Something.
Clyde Do Something. I like his show. But anyways, I'm not against him for wanting to leave Canada. I think and I'm not against anybody that wants to leave Canada. I don't think anybody's a traitor for wanting to leave Canada. You need to do what's best for you and your family. What I got, because I started praying about it, because I was like, I should leave Canada. And then I was thinking about it, praying about it. And like, I talked to my dad. He's really good at calming me down for some of this stuff too. And, but I was like, I don't want to leave Canada. And so I started thinking about it and praying about it. When I got back was like, where am I safest? I'm safest where I am right now, because think about it. If Canada's not going to be the last place that any of this stuff is going to happen. The reason that people in the United States need to pay more attention to this is because they will use it in the United States. I do not care if you have the First Amendment, because it will not protect you against this. They'll find their way around it somehow. And all of this stuff will come to the United States, especially when they take over all the other Western countries. Now, all of their focus can be concentrated on the United States. So it needs to, even if it doesn't stop in Canada, it's going to continue to the US. You're not going to be safe for long in the United States, but also part of it, I go, where I'm safest is where I am. My brother lives very close to me, and his wife, my dad and mom and my grandparents all live very close to me as well. And we're all down the same thing. So where am I safest? Am I safest if I go, say, to Montana, and me and my wife are in a neighborhood in Montana? Or are we where they can we're alone? Or are we safest where it's like, if everything really hits the fan, where if say we're not able to buy, sell, trade, do anything else without some sort of a digital ID, and none of us are able to do anything anymore, if all the power cuts out and natural gas, all this stuff, we're going to be just fine. We have animals, we have farming, we have cows, we got people that know how to do stuff still, and we'll be able to figure out absolutely everything in order to get everything taken care of for as long as we pretty much need. So that's where I'm the safest. And that's what the government obviously hates. That's why they want to drive the good people out of Canada. And I believe that there are a lot of good people who want to stay in Canada and want to fight this stuff.
Yeah, for Clyde and others who are going, like, God is I can't even begin to understand his plan, right? Like
Yeah.
you try and you're like, and I can't, and at times, my life isn't other people's lives, and
Yes.
other people's lives, they got to do what's best for themselves
So
and their family.
if your family, if you feel God telling you go to the United States, go.
Well,
If
then
you feel-
who are we to say
Yeah.
stop?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right? On the flip side, it's like I don't know if I would. I have two different stories. Right? One is Drew Weatherhead. He left. He had a sister who was vaccine injured,
Yeah.
lost his business, and was watching how the government was going to say you can't leave the country, you can't do anything, and so him and his family sold everything, bought a RV and a truck, and went down to the States for 6 months.
Yeah.
And that opened his eyes to a whole new world of possibilities. He's written a book. He's got a second on the way. Shout out to Drew if you're listening. Because, at that time I was like, I don't know if you should leave. In my head, I don't know if I said that aloud, Drew. And then I watch what he's done, and I'm like, man, Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yeah. I mean,
on the flip side, I stayed. And going through what I've gone through with the podcast, it's turned me into, I hope, the man that I am, and I hope to aspire to be even better. And that was from staying. And so I have firm beliefs in staying, and Drew has different beliefs in going.
Yeah.
Because they've both opened up different worlds. And that doesn't mean either is right or wrong. It means, if I am a father, Drew's a father too. You have to do what is best for your family.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, the world will be a better place for it, whichever way you go.
And I would add, I think, I forget where it is in the Bible, but it says the blessings of the Lord have no sorrow attached. So if you're feeling yourself like I was, thinking about, well, we got to go. I was feeling like sorrowful about it. I was like, I don't want to leave this place. Like, it sucks that we're going to have to go. And then I started praying about it because I was like, well, where am I going to find any hope in this? So then started praying about it, and that's what I got back. So right as of now, unless God tells me different, then I'm not leaving yet. I don't want to leave my family here. I don't want any of this, and I don't think God wants it for me yet either. But if God wants it for somebody, like if you're somebody who's like, I want to leave Canada and I think it's the best for my family, then good. That should be it. But if you're feeling sorrowful about it and you're like, I don't want to do that, you don't have to. Yeah, at least at this point.
Well, some of the one of the most impactful books I've ever read was Man's Search for Meaning, and I'm spacing on the author's name, but regardless.
I remember, I know that book, but I don't know the author right now either.
Viktor Frankl.
Ah,
So I read this book, and he reminds me, and maybe other people have different thoughts, but he reminds me of Jordan Peterson if he went through the Holocaust. Full stop. That's what it reminds me of. A guy who's very intellectual, went through a very rough 5-6 years, and then wrote a book about it and had the background of Jordan Peterson. It's a very illuminating book. Like, it's very, very interesting. So that's a guy who chose to go into a very difficult situation. Then you have people who've been on the podcast who've escaped communist countries, and their story is just as impactful, and it's just two different stories. One is we left. We didn't want to be a part of that. They have a very interesting story. Another chose to go into it, has written one of the most impactful books I think I've ever read in my life. Two different choices about similar situations.
yeah.
It's not for me to decide which one was the correct one, because they've both had their influence on society. And to me, if I'm sitting looking at any man, I want them to be involved in their family, their marriage, their house, and take care of themselves and create a strong family unit. Because we have strong family units, which certainly I'm getting from you. I think society will be better for it, and the fixing of society will happen faster than we can imagine.
Yeah.
But men have to take control of their lives.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like and what is ever best for their family. I mean, I can't begin to say whatever choice you're making, as long as you're making right with God and then becoming involved in your family and kids' lives. I mean, what more could we ask for out of any man listening to this?
Yeah. And your church family and all of that. Like, if you find a good church to go to and all of that, that's good. You can gain community from that as well. Like, I even talked to my pastor about this when it was about to come out, and he was like, well, we can't stop talking. Like when these laws are coming in, I was like, what do you do when you're worried about that? He's like, there's already laws that you can't preach in public and stuff. Like in Calgary, and I mean, I knew this as well. In Calgary, if you go and you bring a Bible out onto the street and you start preaching in public, you can get arrested. You can go to jail for that, which is absolutely insane. And that just also goes to show about how we have stopped serving God in government and just serve the devil. But it's the same thing. There are all of these laws. They locked up pastors during COVID, and it's good when people oppose that. Like I had gone to a church that had not that had shut down during COVID, and I didn't like that. And then we started going to a different one. And that's where we are, and it's a great church, and it's full of good people who care about each other and about their community. And I mean, I'm finding that a lot. Like where I am, I'm near a very small town. And the church that I go to, it's great. Like the amount of community that's there is amazing. And that's why, like, I think that's part of why they would try to stuff everybody into big cities and things like that, because it does away with community, try to put, obviously, people who don't like you in your neighborhoods, like immigrants and all of this stuff that don't think the same way. And just to try to get rid of community, because the government hates community the most.
It's funny. I ran into, I guess, an immigrant from India. What was that, 2 weeks ago? He was more awake than half of society here.
Some of them are, yeah. But
I don't mean, and he was quick to point out that's not all of the people coming from India.
Oh, no, and I'm not saying that it is. I'm not trying to use immigrant as a derogatory term.
No, and I know not. I just like, I think, can you find, so when you go to like these big conversations about society is on a reckoning course, like we are going down a bad path, the obvious question I continue to ask is, so what do we do about it? And 9 out of 10 times, they'll say, well, you get to know your neighbors, build community.
Yeah.
They don't say move to the countryside and get 10 of your best friends to move there, and that's how you build
No,
community.
obviously not, but if you find it wherever you are. If
that's
you're
right.
in the city, if you're in an apartment building.
Or build it wherever you are.
Yeah. If you're in an apartment building, get with all your neighbors and get them over for dinner and figure it out.
Start talking to people.
Start talking to them. That's how you can change minds too.
I'm learning. I didn't really think this is that dangerous. Talking to one another.
Yeah, which is it's not, but they think that it is.
No,
it's
well,
dangerous.
It's
dangerous to communists, and it's dangerous to people who it's dangerous to people who want to stay in power no matter what.
Dangerous
so
to
it
big
is
government.
to them. It's not dangerous to me. If somebody wants to come out and say he's wrong about absolutely everything, okay, fine. Fair enough. You can say that. You can think that. You can believe that. I'm probably wrong about a lot of things, and it does not matter to me because I'm not trying to prove that I'm right in every single way whatsoever. Whereas Mark Carney will prove that he's right even when he's wrong. So, like, this is the most dangerous thing to them because they want to destroy everything about everything. It's hard to say it in smaller terms than that, but they want to destroy community because they don't want people thinking like each other and opposing him because. When you build when you build your house on the sand, well, then it'll get washed away at any sort of a storm. So when you start Mark Carney's building his house on the sand, and when you start getting people together that are talking about this, and then find out, hey, we agree on this, and even if people don't see yet that what the government is doing is bad, when they start getting together and start talking about it, they'll go, oh, why is what we're talking about now illegal? Even if it's like something simple like I don't know, anything even super simple and super small. Like think about the Bible. If you talk about the Bible in public, how is that illegal? How would that get you thrown in jail? But it does. And when they start figuring that out, any little community will get together and start opposing it. And then that community will probably start to grow. And that's what they don't like about it. That's why they want to get rid of all of this community.
Yeah, well, a strong community doesn't allow stupid ideas.
If you park your trucks all together on like out by the lake or by the river or something, that's the thing they hate the most. Because just people, even if it's not talking about this stuff and trying to oppose anything, they hate that you'll get together and start building relationships and friendships with other people. Because then eventually, when it comes time to attack one of those people, well, then you're going to come up against a bunch of people that are going to start opposing that, and that's what they don't want.
Yeah, man.
That's why they fund like thousands of new RCMP officers, but why do we not have a provincial police force? Like, I agree a bit with what Ben Trudeau said on your show, where he was talking about how also we should start building stuff for Alberta by ourselves. Sure. Like, why does Quebec own like that? I was like, I didn't know Quebec owned that much stuff, but they do. They own like the outlet mall by the airport. They own the outlet mall by Calgary. They own most of our insurance, most of our banks. I mean, that's why you should go to like something like a credit union for sure, because at least in Alberta-based credit union like ATB Service, there's the one
BVCU,
which I like. That's good. Those are good ones, because if you're sending your money to TD, like they're in Toronto, and
corrupt.
Yeah, and corrupt. Like they got fined $1 billion by the United States for laundering money for drug cartels. It's stupid stuff.
And I mean, and if you're at the Royal Bank has been
debanking everybody, yeah,
because they're of risk assessments. Right?
My grandparents switched from them a long time ago because they were with RBC, and then they were trying to get a loan for a piece of equipment for their farm. This was way back. And they're like, we don't do that for farmers here. And then they went to Service Credit Union in the same town, and they're like, do you guys like farmers here? And they're like, we love farmers. And they gave them the loan. It was a very small amount too. It wasn't like anything insane. Like this was way back. But they were like, yeah, we love farmers here. We're gonna get it to you.
I know people have heard this story, but Josh, obviously I've recorded this so tight to Rod Giltack and Chuck Bronick being on. You know, when you talk about the government, we got talking about the shooting in Halifax, or Nova Scotia, sorry.
Yeah.
Not Halifax, Nova Scotia. And Rod was explaining how he got to see the package of evidence on the shooting. And he goes, there wasn't a single legal gun used in that shooting. And
yeah.
One of the other things that stuck out to me is the two people that had an encounter with the shooter that survived it were legal firearms owners because they had guns in the house. And he goes, so you would think that would be a open shut case of like, this is criminal element, illegal guns are bad. And what did they do? They came out against legal. They took that facts, they threw it in the garbage, and they walked this way. And so when you're talking about conversations being dangerous, it's because of facts like that coming out. I draw it all the way back to Alberta teachers. And I know there's a ton that are listening, and I'm like, I don't think people hate teachers. I think they're really frustrated by the ATA doing things that make zero sense. Their kids are not in school. There's a ton of people that still believe in the public education system and you specific teachers who have done a lot of good in their children's lives. And yet here we are. It's still ongoing. They're rallying against Danielle Smith, saying it's, she's the worst human being ever.
It's a political hit against Danielle Smith is what this whole protest is about.
And you need, I don't know. I'm just like, I wouldn't... It's for each individual person to figure out for themselves. But at some point, you got 50,000 of you. Where is the 25, the 100,000 teachers to come out and just oppose this already and get this thing back on the rails? I can't do anything about it. I'm not a teacher. I bring people on to talk about it. I had Danielle Smith on to talk about it.
I think she's very, very balanced in everything that she says and seems very, like, I don't think there's anything crazy. Like, she talks about how they preemptively wanted to hire 3,000 teachers. She talks about how, like, all their deal sounds very good. So that, to me, leads to the fact that this is just a political hit job against her. Like, they just don't like her because they want Naheed Nenshi, because also the other thing is they think that throwing more money at these problems is going to breed some sort of efficiency.
Which it won't.
It won't. You need to, what I think we should do is privatize a lot of education, because that will breed efficiency. It will make the costs lower. Like, we already have some private schools, and if you look at the amount of funding that they throw at like private schools, it's like it's not even close to the amount that they throw to per student to public schools.
No, I know a homeschooler had commented on the mashup, I think it was last week, that homeschoolers get $901 for the year. And if you go to a public system, it's probably, I think, safe to say 10 times that. If your child goes to public versus homeschooling.
My sister's still in school, like just close to finishing and stuff. But I have a younger sister, and she's still in school. She goes to a private school, and it's like their school continued, and it's expensive, but a lot of it is paid by like my parents pay it for her to go to that school. It's not a lot is paid by the government. And when the NDP was in, it was a lot less, because the NDP doesn't want anybody outside of the indoctrination mill that is Edmonton.
Well, and schools. The ATA supports the NDP.
Yeah.
Right. So
100%.
if you take
Look who
out,
they vote for and endorse.
if you lessen the numbers of the ATA, that bloc becomes less of a force in the public in the political sphere. If they increase that number, it becomes more of a backdrop for the NDP.
See, and you say, why would I not go into politics? Here's why it wouldn't work. If I were, say, premier of the province and they came to me with this, I would go and take the numbers and divide them by the teachers. And I would go, oh, okay, that means we need to cut 19,000 teachers, which would save the province $1 billion. So now you're not striking for how much we're going to increase. You're striking for how much we are going to cut for teachers, because I would go, we're going to cut 19,000.
You sound like twos.
That would be my offer, would be we're going to cut 19,000 teachers.
Twos when they come wanting more. Yeah, we always talk about the postal system. And I got a ton of time for a lot of postal workers, right? Like I think there's some great, it's like everything. I got to justify. I'm not talking about every teacher. I'm not talking about every nurse.
No, I'm not talking about every teacher.
But when you're a failing business model,
that's
the postal
terrible.
workers,
and it's a union too,
and they're trying to demand more and demand and demand. Twos is the guy who says, I'd walk in day one and I'd be like, this is your offer, and every day you don't take the offer, it gets worse.
That's what I do. I'd be like, okay, we're going to start with cutting. We're not going to give you these raises. We're going to cut, like, say 19. So say we're going to cut 5,000 teachers, and then it's like, okay, well, the strikes continue every week. We're cutting 5,000 more, and that would get us to that would still bring us to a class size of only, what was it, like 30 students per class or less, even 20 some students per class if we cut 19,000 teachers. So that would be my offer. That's why nobody would vote for me, because I would offer off. I wouldn't. That's part of the, like, I like listening to people, but I also wouldn't give anybody an inch. Like if you would tell, like, Naheed Nenshi doing all this, oh, we need this. Like, okay, here's another point with Naheed Nenshi. So he goes to the Alberta teachers strike and he's there supporting everybody. Oh, we support the citizens of Alberta, all of this stuff, 25,000 people there, one of the largest. The next day or 2 days later, there's one of the largest in Alberta, 20,000 people at the Alberta rally is numbers that I've heard. And he's not there. He's not anywhere to be found, not supporting Alberta, only supporting people who support him, which is so divisive. I mean, to be fair, Danielle Smith wasn't at either of these, but so what? I just find it funny that he's like, oh, we love Alberta and we love Albertans except for the Conservatives. We don't like them. And like, yeah, I don't know. And back to a little bit what you were saying on the guns is that you'll like this. Liberals think that guns are for chaos and murder because that's what they use them for. Conservatives think guns are for hunting and sport shooting because that's what they use them for. So that gets to exactly the root of it all. And will this stop gun crime? If they take away every gun and every bullet from everybody in the entire country, will they stop any gun crime? Maybe a little bit, but barely any at all.
I would say nope.
I would say maybe a very, very small amount.
Well,
say people that shoot out of season, maybe not. But I mean, a lot of those people are using illegal guns anyways.
No. I mean, the decrease in crime.
I think it would increase crime in some ways.
Well, yeah,
because they know nobody else has a gun.
Correct.
Where is the lowest amount of? Okay, which has more school shootings, California or Florida?
Full stop, California.
100% California. Yeah, California has had. I think Florida has had like 1 or 2 only, and California's had like 17 this year so far. It's insane. Because also one of the things is you're not going to go and try to pull a gun on somebody when you know, oh, they have a gun right here, or 10 other people in this restaurant have a gun. I maybe don't. Would
you, if you were a criminal, would you break into a house?
If you knew that they were going to...
Yeah. If you knew that you're in a conservative community where they had gun laws. No. The answer, you go to somewhere else where they had laws saying you can't have a gun because you're more inclined to go into a place that they can't defend themselves.
Yeah, and also when they go, if you defend yourself, you're going to jail. That's insane. Like, that's crazy. If you defend yourself in a home invasion, you're going to jail. Like that guy, somebody broke into his house with a crossbow. He used a knife, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to jail."
And you're going to jail.
We need castle laws we need castle law. I would like more stand your ground laws, actually, because stand your ground laws is like, we're out in public, like say we're in the park here in Lloydminster, and somebody comes up and like tries threatening you. You can shoot them in public, and that's okay. That's like what Florida has and stuff. I think it obviously does need to be justified and things like that. But I mean, you should be able to defend yourself wherever you are. Why would you not be allowed to? It's just because they want, like, there's a term for what the government does, and it's called anarcho-tyranny. I'm not sure if you've heard it before, but it's anarcho-tyranny. It's where they enforce and create new laws to punish legal, like, people who are abiding by the laws, like you and me and stuff, and then they allow criminals to get rid of, or to go out rampant and commit crimes and all of that without doing anything to enforce it. And we see that from their bail laws. We see that from like they're telling you to put your keys
at the front
at
door.
the front door so that somebody can take your car. And they're like, basically, if a criminal comes into your house, well, they can do whatever they want.
They're also telling us boys can become girls. So,
Yeah, they tell you everything, yeah.
it just falls in line with all the stupidity of this country, right? And that's why I come back to, I don't know how you fix Canada. I don't know if it's possible.
Oh, it is. It's possible in 3 years.
It's possible.
yeah.
But I go, the political will that is in the West right now is for Alberta.
We should take off and leave. Like I think the future of, at some point, even like let's say it doesn't work this time around. At some point, we need to split it east to west. Because also, if you think about it this way, it's like we are a huge country with like a relatively low population in some ways, but the widespread of governance in this country, it's too much. Like if you think about it, Ontario or Ottawa is further from London, or is closer to London than Edmonton is to Ottawa. So if you think about it like that, it's like if London were making all of these rules for Ontario, you would think that that's stupid. But Ontario making all these rules for Alberta, that's just as stupid. Like we need to east to west.
Where can people find you?
Oh, just on YouTube.
Josh on
Topic on YouTube. You can find me on I'm on Instagram and X and TikTok. I am very bad at posting on all that because I work a lot. I have a young family as well, so mainly YouTube is where you'll find regular uploads, and it's pretty much every day of the week.
Well, there you go, folks. I appreciate you making the drive this morning and doing this. We've covered a lot, and I've enjoyed the conversation. You're a young man who's got a lot of conviction, and once again, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in the best possible sense of the word. And I appreciate you reaching out to me and tracking me down. I'm always curious when, like people find me and how they find me, and I always think, I found all the commentators in Alberta, let alone Canada, and every week that goes by, I run into somebody new that I've never heard of, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is what the show was kind of built on, was exploring different voices in Canada, and certainly sitting here in Alberta, Albertans has been a healthy chunk of that. And I'm always very interested when I run across somebody I've never heard of that speaks as open and candidly as you do. And there's a ton of others, and I'm always shocked that I've never run into you. But in fairness, if you've only been doing the show, I think you said 8 months.
Yeah.
I'll be curious to follow along on your journey and everything else. But I appreciate you reaching out. I appreciate you making the drive and sitting in the chair. I appreciate the gift. You didn't have to do that. Appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate the silver. I appreciate you having me on the show. It's great to meet you and to finally see what this is all about. And it's great I just really appreciate you having me on. It was really good to